here on the daily. So anything you can do to help us, please consider joining our team. Please gift like crazy. There's a subscriber goal. We are 14 away from 200 on TikTok, and then around the same number over on Facts HQ. If we can get to 200, both locations or one or the other, whichever one we get to first, we'll do a sub-only event. So we need your help with that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, if you're heading over to the link tree, all kinds of information about causes you can support. And while you're there, please consider joining our Discord. Discord is the hub for everything that we do around here. It's where the sausage is made, so to speak. The chaos happens, but there's a lot of really great communities that we've formed, not only here in this space, but within the Discord world as well. There's mutual aid, there's mental health awareness, there's veterans resources, there's resources for LGBTQIA, all kinds of stuff. So it's important if you want to stay connected with us. We, of course, don't know the future of TikTok. I don't believe it's going anywhere, but just in case, you can find us there, Discord. You can find us on YouTube. We are streaming on YouTube. If you've not yet subscribed, please consider doing so. And again, don't forget about FactsStillMatter.hq and the pay apps are above my head. All right, it's Friday. Like I said, so glad you could make it. A lot of things to kind of sort of to cover off on. A lot of news from the Supreme Court yesterday, although not much news. We have more information regarding the budget that is now out. There's lots of things that are in it. There's a lot of, we need to navigate through some of the hyperbolic reactions to both sides in regards to what's in the bill, what's not in the bill, the impact it's going to have. I want to dive into this a little bit today in Trump's America, Ignorance is Bliss. I had this idea yesterday, and then I could not sleep last night. See, there's our daily restriction. Okay, thank you. Don't know what it is, but I need you guys helping. Liking is loving, tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. You know the drill. So I was thinking about this and how amazing and freeing it must be to live in a world where the truth doesn't matter, nor do facts, apparently. Mutual of mine, Maddie, I believe Maddie might live in the West Coast. They were live overnight. I couldn't sleep. I was up around 3:30 tossing and turning. So I was just tuned into their live for a little while. And I don't know about you guys, but we have various conversations with the opposition and the MAGA Trumps, I should say the Trump voters, the MAGA, there's a flash goal. Let me do that. Okay. We need 9 hearts. Do your thing, everybody. Thank you. I think the most annoying, thank you very much, Marilyn, appreciate you. Hearts in the chat from Marilyn. She's always there helping us out. The most annoying Trump voter to me is the pseudo-intellectual, is the person who thinks that they're smart, or at least they're well-spoken. They perceive themselves as smart, and they fall into a couple of really distinct categories. They are either financial planners and advisors, or they're venture capitalists, or at least they claim to be, because of course you can claim to be anything you want on TikTok. And they think that they have this just understanding of the economy, and yet every single time they go 10 toes down in their defense of something, they're just wrong. Like I was listening this morning and I was commenting, and like I said, because I couldn't sleep without my glasses, so I had no idea what the fuck I was typing, but claiming that the stock market has recovered its losses. And I'm like, what the fuck are you looking at, dude? We know the stock market was at a high under the Biden administration before he left office of over 46,000. It's now hovering around 42. So the market's lost like 3,500 to 4,000 points. It's down like 6%. Every key measurement it's down like, mega percent. So like, what are you looking at? And then to honestly say, thank you, Erica. And then to honestly say, good morning, by the way. And then to honestly say that, the tariffs. Oh, thank you. That's pretty sweet. That's really cool. Thank you, guys. The reduction, Trump losing the tariff war, the trade war with China, when they go from 120%, 30%, 50%, 145%, and then down to 30%, these people see this as a win. Like, in what world do you live in when a 30% tariff passed on to consumers is a win when you were promised no inflation, your prices are going to be reduced for everything, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now we have reports from Walmart added to the list of companies that have gone public telling their consumers and their customers that, yeah, we can't navigate through this. Inevitably, your prices are going to go up. And their response to, well, it's short-term pain, long-term gain, and families are suffering. So that is a group of people that are just so, it's like fingernails on the chalkboard, literally, because just listening to them and their pseudo-intellectual, bullshit, trying to convince us that this is all for the better. No, it's not for the better. We have an early request. Oh, it's crap. You're at it early. Good morning, friend.
I am. Normal, Steve is the problem. Understood.
I can hear you now. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so I spent the last day and a half reading over the proposed SNAP changes, as you would assume I, of all people, would.
Yeah.
And the two big ones that jump out to me, because there's a lot. Like right now, I'm actually, over the weekend, I'm going to print out the entire legislation because I want to put it next to the current existing SNAP policy that I work with and highlight the discrepancies. But the two ones that jumped out to me is increasing the work requirement age, because currently it's 54 years old. After 54, we don't care if you work or you don't. It's whatever. We'll account for your income if you do work, but it's not a requirement. They want to kick that up to 64. And the other one, and this is the one that requires a little more explanation, they don't want to allow the Department of Agriculture to address the thrifty food plan. That's a phrase that means nothing to anybody who doesn't understand SNAP. What that is that's COLA for SNAP. When you hear thrifty food plan, think COLA for SNAP. Presently, okay, just like the Social Security Administration sets COLA increases that everybody else uses, we use thrifty food plan for SNAP. That's your COLA for SNAP. So when things go cost more, the thrifty food plan increases automatically. We give people more SNAP. They now want to put the thrifty food plan adjustments into Congress, so a thing that Congress has to do rather than the Department of Agriculture, which it has always historically done.
I'm going to get into that a little bit. And I think if we can just pull this back from 100,000 feet, we know that the Qatari jet gifted to the president, not the country, the president, let's be clear about that. Guesstimates are on the low end, it would cost taxpayers over $1 billion to have it retrofitted for him to use for roughly 2 years before he takes it with him. And our friends on the right, the fiscally responsible party, is suddenly okay with that while kids are going to fucking starve. That's the bigger issue, right? I mean, let's boil it down. Let's boil it down to that. Millions of people kicked off Medicare, Medicaid, and children will continue to go hungry, but we're totally fine with $1 billion to retrofit the new Air Force One. Ignorance is bliss.
And that's the ultimate thing. Like, they're also trying to add ABOT requirements to Medicaid, which is a thing we've never done because healthcare, we don't really care if you're working. We want you to be healthy.
Yeah, exactly. What a novel concept.
Because a healthy populace tends to work more, earn more, pay more in taxes.
Exactly, more productivity. You see in other parts of the world, countries that, like in Scandinavia and parts of Europe and every other developed nation that offers universal health care, government-funded health care, because they invest in their people, in their population, and they get more productivity. But we don't here because we got to cover $1 billion retrofit for a jet.
The things that have been pointing out lately is that when a rich man finds loopholes in the tax system, he's applauded for taking advantage of the system. But the poor, when they use the system, are seen as leeches.
Exactly. I appreciate you saying that, buddy. Keep me posted. Let's talk next week a little bit more about how, before I head to the UK, about the specifics as you get deeper into it. I'm going to go over it this morning too. Thanks for jumping in, bro. Appreciate you. He's right. So we're going to go into that. I want to talk about the Supreme Court. But I think to start, Belly, are you here, Belly? You show up every day. You like the teal, man? I did that just for you, Belly. I appreciate you, sweetie. Kiss, kiss. You want to cuddle later? Hook me up. Okay, so Kristi Noem has been getting mercilessly dragged, and I think now is a great time to kind of talk, to kind of highlight some of the dragging that she's gotten. Now, we've seen her in her various costumes, right? So Benny Thompson, you guys know Benny Thompson. Benny Thompson is, was the chairman of the January 6th Select Committee, and I've always liked Benny. He's been a public service for a long time, and he's just he's a very direct individual. Does not pull punches. So as she came in for her hearing, because she's now over budget, and we're not even halfway through the year yet, and now she's asking Congress for more money for a DHS specific jet. And they are misappropriating funds. They are using funds illegally. Again, Congress appropriates, and if she's using funds illegally, then she's using funds illegally. So this is part of the dragging. So we're going to step our way into today, because I've got a lot of things I want to talk about the ignorance is bliss from the right. We're going to get into the Supreme Court yesterday. We're going to talk about that horrible state of affairs in Georgia, and the family that is going through just pain on top of pain, and how the right is just trying to justify it. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about some parallels to authoritarianism, autocracy, etc. But first, let's drag Kristi Noem, shall we? Cool. Hold on.
You found time among your many photo ops and costume changes to testify about why President Trump is seeking more taxpayer dollars and what you plan to do with that money if you get it.
Yeah, Benny, that's exactly right. With all your seriously, every single time she goes someplace, there's a new, I'm not judging, but let's be real. It's become this, it's almost like they love the position. Just like yesterday, we talked about Kash Patel and how he just is spending money on flying to Nashville to see his girlfriend, trips to Vegas to go to UFC events, sporting events across the country, canceling morning briefing meetings, all this kind of stuff. Pete Hegseth, obviously, they're incompetent in their job. They are there. They are happy to have the position, but they can't function in the job. So she's been getting dragged mercilessly.
I'm not advocating for him.
Mercilessly. This is Dan Goldman questioning her regarding the directive from the Supreme Court. Remember, the directive from the Supreme Court in the case of Rodrigo Garcia was that the Trump administration, along with DHS, of which she is responsible to facilitate the return of Mr. Garcia to the United States in a 9-0 Supreme Court ruling. So in her attempt to try to skirt answering the question, Dan Goldman pressed her pretty hard, and this was her response.
Good advocacy for him.
I'm not advocating for him. I'm advocating for a court order, Madam Secretary. The court order says that you must take steps to follow the court order. You are here under oath. What steps have you taken to return Mr. Rodrigo Garcia pursuant to this court order?
Got to be extremely discouraging to be one of your constituents. To see you fight for a terrorist like this and not fight for them is extremely alarming to me.
I'm fighting for due process, and that's under the Constitution.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Due process.
The gentleman's time has expired. I now
Again, didn't answer the question. When are you going to do your job? You've been directed by the Supreme Court 9-0 to facilitate his return, and what have you done? You've not answered it. But let's save the best for last. So Delia Ramirez, who is a representative from the state of Illinois, also part of this questioning of Kristi Noem. I don't have anything to add other than her savagery on full display.
Let me ask you the follow-up question here, because I have a lot of them. Do you agree that Article 1 of the Constitution gives Congress the power of the purse? Yes or no?
Yes, it is a duty.
Do you believe that, let me ask you another follow-up, it's just yes or no. Do you believe you have the power to disregard congressional appropriations and unilaterally repurpose funds that have been duly appropriated by Congress? Yes or no?
And we are not doing that.
So the answer to you is no. All right, well, it was a yes or no, Secretary. Let me continue. Interestingly, you said no. And since you've been Secretary, you have repeatedly disregarded the law. You have illegally impounded funds that Congress appropriated and that your branch of government must implement pursuant to the law. Yet you've closed offices established in law, including the Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, the Office of the Immigration Detention Ombudsman, the Office of the Citizenship and Immigration Services, and you've canceled contracts for programs authorized in law, including shelter and service programs and citizenship and integration grants. You've obstructed and roughed up members of this committee as they attempted to conduct congressional oversight, and then you vilified them. But my question is, if they were so bad, why were they allowed to go in after to conduct oversight? Let me just continue. You redirected funds to terrorize our communities. You created taxpayer-funded political propaganda campaigns to terrorize families and children who don't sleep at night because of the terror of those commercials that you are putting out there.
One of those was the photo op that she took in front of the jail cell at CCOT, down there in her freshly pressed MAGA hat, pictures from the border, et cetera, et cetera.
You hold sick, disrespectful press conferences in my state where, let me be clear, you are not welcome. You corruptly use emergency $45 billion for newspaper editors, labor leaders, and even a Harvard scientist who failed to declare frog embryos at the airport. Clearly, we don't have time for all my questions, so I have 13 pages worth of questions that I will be submitting to the record that I expect you and the administration to answer. But here is my final question to you. When you took your oath, did you swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America? Yes or no?
Yes, I did.
So I find it laughable. You don't behave like someone who takes that oath seriously. And let me tell you why. We don't live in a dictatorship or a monarchy. Trump's will is not the guiding doctrine of this nation, and our country is not a playground for his or your twisted authoritarian fantasy. We are a democracy. We defend the Constitution and we affirm the rule of law. We respect the co-equal branches of government and we uphold our rights, even when we disagree. The foundation of our nation is based on a core set of constitutional rights upon which our prosperity, our pluralism, and our peace depend on it. You, however, have been leading this work for 116 days. And in that time, you have profiled and dehumanized our neighbors. You've betrayed our constitutional commitment to due process. You've deported United States citizens. You've undermined the courts. You've broken the law. You've engaged in corruption. And you've weaponized the immigration system to violate civil rights. As Senator Murphy perfectly stated, your department is out of control. But you're responsible. You have betrayed the sacred fundamentals of your oath. And I believe to my core that you are not fit to hold the office. Again, to your face, demand your immediate resignation. And I put it and place it on the record for all of us to see.
Well. Delia Ramirez, Democratic representative from Illinois, bring in the fucking heat. Demanding Kristi Noem's resignation. Under normal operating conditions, if she behaved the way that she did in corporate America, she'd be fired in a second. Incompetent, over budget, not doing her job at all. It is literally just a showcase. People who look good and sound good on TV. Pete Kegsbreath, Kristi Noem, Kash Patel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you live or are represented by Delia Ramirez in Congress, we often give our elected officials a lot of heat. Well, if they do something good like that, call their office and tell them that. In fact, all of you. Delia, D-E-L-I-A, Ramirez, Democrat from the state of Illinois, contact her office and let her know that you support everything that she said and did, because that was fucking savage, and I love it. All right. So let's get into this whole ignorance is bliss. Actually, why don't we do the Supreme Court thing first? Because I did a bit of a breakdown on this. So what we need to focus on from the Supreme Court case yesterday, the case was introduced as birthright citizenship. It's the case of Trump v. Casa. But I want people to understand that this is really about jurisdiction for district court judges. So the argument being made by the Trump administration is that a district court judge, thus a lower court judge, does not have the judicial authority to impose an injunction on a federal mandate, an executive order in particular, right? So that was the push of the case. Ultimately, it's going to come around to a decision whether or not birthright citizenship applies as it's written under the Constitution. What I found interesting from listening to some of the audio and listening to Attorney Di break it down, and then the politics girl and all those kinds of things, was that even the conservative judges sort of leaned in to say, well, birthright citizenship is in the Constitution. So these are the kind of the key takeaways. The justices appeared skeptical about the constitutionality of Trump's executive order. The primary focus during the arguments was on the procedural question of whether or not lower courts have the authority to issue nationwide injunctions. Conservative justices expressed concerns about the broad use of such injunctions, suggesting they might prefer limiting their scope. Now, there's this thing called judge shopping. You guys may or may not be familiar with this. The idea being is that if you want to introduce a case and you are looking for a favorable judge, this happens on both sides, you shop it to a judge that may be sympathetic to your needs. We can use the Dobbs case as an example. There's a judge in Texas who oftentimes the far right likes to try to use because they are ultra conservative and in the past has been part of the process of getting items into the judicial hopper, so to speak, and then hopefully and eventually rise to the ultimate, which is the Supreme Court. So this is an example of potentially making change to that system. I think I could support that. I think we would all support that, right? We want a fair judiciary. So one of the recommendations made was maybe it's a panel of judges that decide on an issue, like a 3-person panel. That's more democratic to me. I think I'd be comfortable with that. And I'd like to think that we can find compromise there, right? But as it sits now, the way it is, a district judge initiated this injunction against the terminating and or eliminating or whatever, doing away with, suspending birthright citizenship. Liberal justices, including Justice Kagan and Sotomayor, highlighted potential issues arising from limiting injunctions. They warned that without nationwide injunctions, the executive order could be enforced in some states, but not in others. Again, you can't pick and choose, leading to inconsistent application of citizenship rights and potential confusion. Justice Barrett, Justice Amy Boney Carrot, who I've got to say, since she has been on the bench, she has surprised me more often than not. I still think that she, if given an opportunity to support an initiative that would federalize or make an abortion ban federal, there is that. But in listening to her speak, she's very direct. I mean, she gets right to the issue, and she had some highlights yesterday, including challenging the government's position during the hearing. She questioned the practicality of relying on class action lawsuits as an alternative to nationwide injunctions, expressing concerns over the lack of viable legal pathways for individuals affected by the executive order, meaning that something does not have to rise to a class action lawsuit, where lawyers make the money and a whole bunch of people are involved in the decision. But in this case, she said, why shouldn't one person be able to bring a case like this? This is ridiculous. And then potential implications for the judicial authority. The case has broader implications beyond the specific issues of birthright citizenship. A decision to limit nationwide injunctions could significantly impact the judiciary's ability to check the executive, potentially allowing policies to take effect even if they are later deemed unconstitutional. So without an injunction, without the ability to put brakes on, then you're waiting for either a lawsuit or you're waiting for judicial review. So without someone stepping in to pause it, deeming it unconstitutional, then an executive order, even if it is against the law, potentially could go into effect, which is obviously very, very dangerous. Supreme Court is expected to issue its ruling by the end of June, which is the end of the session. The decision will not only determine the fate of Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship, but also set a precedent regarding the scope of judicial powers and using nationwide injunctions. Supreme Court likes to try to find balance. They're not in the habit of overturning lower courts. especially if it rises to the appellate. They're generally not in that position. You can look back at recent decisions. They're very rarely do they rule against the lower courts. So in this case, especially since even the conservative judges introduced the idea that birthright citizenship is constitutional. So there's that. Now, will they make changes like we discussed earlier? The possibility of saying it's got to be a 3-judge panel as opposed to 1 judge making that decision, because there are more than 1 judge in districts across the country. I forget how many judges there are. I think it's like 750 judges. I forget, whatever the number is. Anyway, there may be a compromise if they're looking for. So we'll be following that. Obviously, it's just about a month away. The end of June is when they'll make a decision on this. So this is a big one. This is a test, again, of our system, checks and balances, making sure that, the executive is not a fucking king, right? Speaking of that, the good liars and everyone else is out there still doing the work. They are still asking the questions to Trump supporters out in the field when they talk to them. Well, this was just a little exchange that I found before we kind of pivot to our next topic. Everybody, please continue to like and share the live. See if we can get to 100K, guys. I'd really appreciate that. Don't forget, there's a subscriber goal, gifting goal. You guys do your thing. And don't forget to join our team if you haven't already. So this was, like I said, the good liars out there doing the work, asking Trump supporters. First of all, let me set the stage for you. Trump supporters donned in sparkly, like gold lame jackets with Trump spelled out, Trump, with their yellow shirts, obviously, proud to let their freak fascist flags fly. Say that 3 times fast. So this, you can just listen to the sound of this, and this is, again, the mind of MAGA, and I'm going to get into this about how in Trump's America, ignorance is bliss.
Bother you when Donald Trump referred to himself as a king on his social media post?
I didn't hear that.
Nothing bothers me that Donald Trump says.
Oof.
But do you think that having a king goes with the American way of life?
It's just like they calling Elvis the king. King of rock and roll. Michael Jackson's the king of rock and roll. What's the difference? He's the king of the presidency for us.
He's the king of the presidency.
He is the king of presidency, and I believe that's what he was referring to. And he is our king.
I'm sorry, one more time.
Did it bother you when Donald Trump referred to himself as a king on his social media post?
I didn't hear that.
Nothing bothers me that Donald Trump says.
But do you think that having a king goes with the American way of life?
It's just like they calling Elvis the king.
Yeah.
King of rock and roll. Michael Jackson's the king of rock and roll. What's
Just like
the
that.
difference?
Yeah.
He's the king of the presidency for us.
He's the king of the presidency.
He is the king of presidency, and I believe that's what he's referring to. And he is our king.
So Elvis, the king of rock and roll. Michael Jackson, by the way, the king of pop. And they're totally fine with Donald Trump being the king of presidency, as they put it. But not weird, not a cult, as we discussed with Daniela yesterday. And we'll kind of get into that in a minute. So again, the mind of the MAGA voter is walking around in a bubble, in a state of ignorance, because I don't know how else you would describe it, right? Other than that, I mean, you heard it, the king of the presidency. So, yeah, there's that. I think what I want to do is give you some examples of what he says on the regular, which then I would like to think exposes him to his base, but although we know it doesn't. So this was Mr. Trump just recently having this very strange conversation about, I'm not even sure how to describe it. Let me see if I can find the clip here, first of all. This was overseas as he's being bribed by the Middle Eastern countries, the UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's where I'm going. Thank you. You got me. So this is an interesting, this is one of his inside the mind of, once you navigate through all the cholesterol and everything else, this is what's inside the mind of our fearless leader. This is wild shit. Buckle up.
Look at what's happening with Russia and Ukraine. The drone is killing tremendous numbers of people. You hide behind a tree and the drone comes down and it circles you with fire. You don't have a chance. The tree comes down also, by the way. It's so intense. I mean, you see these trees being knocked down like they're being sawed down by a top of the line timberman, like you know who? Sean Duffy. Do you know that Sean Duffy, the head of the transportation department, who's working right now on the airports and getting a system because Biden didn't do a thing for 4 years, and Pete Buttigieg was the head, and he goes bicycling to work. He takes a bicycle to work. Can you believe he's running the biggest air system in the world, and he takes a bicycle to work? And they say he's going to run for president. I don't see it. Who knows, right? But I don't see it.
This is kind of what it reminds me of. Somebody just said this.
Remember when a winter, and I went out to the sandbox, and remember when I had like my toy truck, and remember when mom when you forgot to pack my juice box. Remember.
So the obsession with trees remains. So you may recall
he came down.
Well, first let's play some more regarding Sean Duffy, because again, Sean Duffy is his Secretary of Transportation. Keep in mind, okay? So this interview continues. It's fucking wild.
He's the world champion for 5 years, climbing trees and down, up and down, world champion. So that's what you call a serious lumberjack, and he's doing a fantastic job too. A really respected guy and a terrific guy. And I mentioned the champion because when somebody's a champion, he's the world champion for a long time. He came down, when you come down those trees, coming down at a rapid, he said that started getting you back. You will often break your back. You miss a shot, and you're coming down a lot faster than the human body was meant to come down. But he's doing a fantastic job at transportation. But this has been a very historic trip. I watched some of the people talking about it, and even what I would perceive as enemies of ours, people that are not fair from the press, are saying it's been amazing. We've raised trillions of dollars in investments. There's never been anything like it. And just to finish, we have a country that now has, I think, Howard, we can say that at least $10 trillion of investment and potential investment.
What?
And if...
What? Okay. So this obsession that he continues to have with trees, I don't know if you guys remember this one, but now he's got Sean Duffy, who was in his mind a world-class lumberjack, the Secretary of Transportation. He seems to think is one of the best. Meanwhile, Pete Buttigieg, a Navy veteran, a graduated from Harvard or Yale, attended Oxford University as a Rhodes Scholar, one of the most intelligent people to ever serve in public office, in my opinion. But DJT is psyched that he's got lumberjack Sean. I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay in charge. But remember this when he came to talking about trees?
With regard to the forest, when trees fall down after a short period of time, about 18 months, they become very dry. They become really like a matchstick, and they get up, there's no more water pouring through, and they become very, very, they just explode. With regard to the forest, when trees fall down after a short period of time, about 18 months, they become very dry. They become really like a matchstick, and they get up, there's no more water pouring through, and they become very, very, they just explode.
So here's a question. Is he more obsessed with trees, whales, or windmills? I know, it's, oh my God, we laugh, but that is the president of the United States. He's dumb. He's just flat out stupid, and he's old. He's losing his mind. He does not, one of Trump's claims to fame, if you go back, even though it was horrible, if you go back to the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, always good in front of a camera. That's his game. That's why he does so many pressers now. That's why he does so many interviews now, because that's what he's always done. But he is just really bad. And you are watching him deteriorate right in front of us. Literally, the representative of our country going to global capitals, talking about trees and lumberjacks and nonsensical things regarding, what about that? Biden? I mean, it's fucking embarrassing. What about Biden? It's embarrassing. So there's that. All right, then let's get into this a little bit. So I don't know if you know this, but Doug McMillon, Walmart CEO, came out just yesterday in response to the trade war that our president initiated and then lost. And this was Doug McMillon's message to his consumers. This is Doug McMillon speaking.
We will do our best to keep our prices as low as possible. But given the magnitude of the tariffs, even at the reduced levels announced this week, we aren't able to absorb all the pressure given the reality of narrow retail margins. We're positioned to manage the cost pressure from tariffs as well or better than anyone. But even at the reduced levels, the higher tariffs will result in higher prices.
Add it to the list. Hear that again.
We will do our best to keep our prices as low as possible. But given the magnitude of the tariffs, even at the reduced levels announced this week, we aren't able to absorb all the pressure given the reality of narrow retail margins. We're positioned to manage the cost pressure from tariffs as well or better than anyone. But even at the reduced levels, the higher tariffs will result in higher prices.
Okay, so then this goes to the whole ignorance is bliss, right? And we've been telling you, those of you who are paying attention, because again, like I always say to you guys, you are the smartest chat on TikTok. Fight me. It's true. Tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. We should be at 100K, guys. Need your help. When it's easy to live in a world where the truth doesn't matter, because then whatever you say or whatever you tell your flock, they will believe. And we've got so many examples of this. And then the information overload from the right-wing echo chambers just reinforces the nonsense. It's more than just the lies that he tells, to be honest. It's just about the bubble that they live in. And no matter what, like we've used this, I'll put this up again because I think this is relevant for this conversation. Where is it? Like this, for example. We talked about this before, right? They'll go to the gas pump. They'll pay $3.24. By the way, gas national average is up again. I think it's at $3.20 now. So this was old, but they'll pay $3.24. They'll look at their receipt. Their receipt will say $3.24 a gallon. They will believe, though, that it's $1.98 because their leader told us so. Now that is delusion, right? That is delusion is one thing, but it's ignorance is bliss. It's just avoiding the obvious, right? So now we know that Walmart added to the list of other retailers domestically who are going to be have told their shareholders and their consumers on earnings calls or whatever else it might be that their prices are going to be going up. Trump's going to go out there on the trail or wherever he is going to tell everybody that the prices are going down, right? And they're not. And that inflation there's no more inflation. Now we know inflation ticked down in April, but the expectation is because products are now arriving under tariffs. They didn't arrive. Don't forget, there were no ships coming into Port of Los Angeles, Long Beach, etc. Those ships, the terminals were empty. Remember the symbiotic relationship that global shipping requires? Cargo, ships, trains, whatever it might be, come from exporting countries. They arrive full. They're offloaded, and then domestic importers, then reload the ships and they go back out again. Well, that's not happening. So it's happening now under tariffs, whether it be a reduced tariff or whatever it might be. So Walmart finally says, listen, we need to tell our consumers that prices are going to go up. We're going to do our best to absorb, but they're going to go up. So this is that whole delusion, right? So the Make America Great movement, I leaned on ChatGPT for this because I was curious, and I kind of like the results. The MAGA movement, initiated by former President Trump, is characterized by an ideological framework built on widespread disinformation, conspiracy theories, and authoritarian narratives, obviously. Here's some of the mechanisms by which this proves true. 2020 election. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because TikTok doesn't like it. Repeated claims, lack of evidence, debunked by over 60 court rulings, undermining public faith and democracy, fueled the January 6th Capitol insurrection. Okay, we know that. They still talk about it to this day. All right? It's a bold-faced lie. They're still running with it because ignorance is bliss. Trump is a singular truth teller, portrayed by supporters as uniquely honest. He tells it like it is. He's a straight shooter. yesterday we went through this conversation where I'll find the sound from that. Mike Johnson was talking about the Biden crime family. What about Biden? Well, the Biden crime family was doing it under the cover of darkness. Trump's family's corruption is just transparent for all the world to see. And then the MAGA followers were like, yeah, he's getting a $400 million jet. His family's got investments all over the world, but at least we know. Trump made over 35,000 false or misleading claims as president the first time. The Washington Post had the Trump lie tracker, and it just continues. And the impact is the erosion of truth as a shared civic value. Now, the argument, of course, is going to be made that all politicians lie. Okay, if that's what you need for the argument, sure, we can say that. But when you tell 30, is that the number? 30,573, thank you. 30,573. See, again, smartest chat on TikTok. Where are you going to get that information? When you continue to tell your base lie after lie after lie, they're eventually going to believe it. So then there's no line between what is real and what is not. And as we've seen, no matter how many times we attempt to do it, when presented with the counter to their lie, with the evidence to support it, their claim is what? Fake news, liberal media, woke journalists. They're the threat, blah, 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 which we'll get into the next section when I want to talk about how this impacts authoritarian rising to power. Demonization of political opponents, framing Democrats and critics as the enemy, communist or satanic actors that promoted via QAnon and other extremist narratives. The goal to radicalize his base and delegitimize democratic processes. We still see that every single day, right? It's the Atlantic. It's the Atlantic magazine. It's the AP. It's NPR. It's PBS. It's Elmo. All these people who are telling lies about me are the threat. Okay. Deep state conspiracies. Remember we went through the conspiracy exercise last week, and the conspiracies start small, and then as you go through the severity of and the craziness of the conspiracy, the more likely you are to believe all of them. Well, MAGA lives in a world of conspiracy. They do. There's no other way to navigate through what they're presented every day unless you are susceptible to conspiracies. And that's why I always caution us on the left. If you see something or hear something, like, for example, no tax on tips, we're going to talk about that because the left is now running with a narrative that's not in the budget. It actually is, but I'll explain it to you when we get to it in just a minute. That's an example. I wouldn't call that a conspiracy, but that's just allowing ourselves to be victims of confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance ourselves. We have to be careful for it. That's why we talk about these things here the way we do. I want to make sure that we're all armed as best we can in this intellectual battle that we're in, okay? All right, let's see. Deep state conspiracies. Claims of a secret cabal within the federal government plotting against Trump. No evidence has ever supported this. Because people oppose him does not mean it's a deep state cabal. Just like when we're presented with Doge with waste, fraud, and abuse. Just because you don't like something does not mean it's fraud. Just because you feel like there's too much money being spent on something does not mean it's waste. Just because you don't like a program that benefits poor kids doesn't mean it's abuse. But they'll sell you on that, okay? They will sell you on that it's waste, fraud, and abuse. It's not. That's an example. Media as the enemy. Trump's labeled the mainstream media as fake news and an enemy of the people. Result, polarized information landscape and diminished trust in journalism. So it goes deeper than it goes deeper than just the argument that it's fake news. What it does is, unless Donald Trump has endorsed it or autocrats have endorsed it, then you can't trust that news agency. So when he goes on Fox or Newsmax or wherever it might be, or sits down with Joe Rogan, then he legitimizes that source in the minds of his voters. So therefore, those news organizations can then tell news, that can then tell whatever fucking lie they want. They can literally go out there and spew more nonsense. That's the danger. It's one thing to say we're going to get counter programming, so to speak. That's one thing. But when you delegitimize calling everybody that's out there with those cameras fake news, they're a threat, they're enemies of the people. Is it Scott Turner? Is that the guy who's Brendan Carr, who's the chairman of the FCC now, being instructed? Brendan Carr, by the way, one of the authors of Project 2025, who's the chairman of the FCC, is being instructed by the president to go out and investigate news organizations to consider pulling their licenses. That is an attempt to delegitimize the press. We've got examples of that. Let me just finish this part. Excuse me. And then the polarized information landscape and diminished trust in journalism by design. Let me bring up Eve. Good morning, sister. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fabulous. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Awesome.
What you got for us?
I love to hear that. I got a little regularly scheduled mod announcement for our friends here in the chat. Good morning, y'all. You know that I'm here to remind you to please support our amazing hostess with the mostest. He's our radical, rebel, resisting renegade Republicans, and he's here every day with that fiery feral fist for freedom, bringing you facts over feelings because facts still matter, and they always will. Oh, if you have the means, let's help Fax meet his gift goal in subwaves. You can find pay apps in the link tree of his bio, as well as the Fax HQ and Discord link. You can reach the HQ via FactsStillMatter.site, and you can check out all of our resources available and all the new merch. But if you're just looking for that fun free form for the Fax family to frolic, then Discord is the place. If the link in the bio doesn't work, try to copy and paste it into a browser or Google. And if that still doesn't work, reach out to a moderator and we'll hook you up. When you join, please open a ticket. There's a couple quick questions. It's part of our process to maintain a safe space for our community. And if you need assistance with that, no worries. Just ask in the unverified lobby and we'll walk you through it. The mutual aid channel of Discord has a few folks looking for some extra help. If you can spare a few extra dollars, please consider doing so. No amount is too small. It all adds up. Now, if you haven't already, please click that follow or heart me up at the top of the screen next to Fax's name. You can join the team for the cost of a penny. You can do this every day, and it helps to keep us relevant and on the FYP. The main thing that we ask of y'all is to please just interact in the comments as well as tapping your little hearts out. It's always free to tap and share out the live. If you don't have any friends, you can just click the copy link. It works the same as a share and no one will be the wiser. Also, 1 penny gifts such as roses, corn, and the lightning bolt, they really help the algorithm. So if you have a few extra coins, please consider tapping those little gifts away. After this live stream, head on over to YouTube and subscribe to Facts Still Matter there as well. You can rewatch shows for any information you missed, and subscriptions on YouTube are free, just like following your favorite creators here on TikTok. Lastly, be kind, smile at a stranger, and have a fuck your feelings kind of day.
Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you. Have a great day and an amazing weekend, okay?
Same to you.
All right. I want to go back to one thing real quick regarding demonization of political opponents, framing Democrats and critics as enemies, communists, and or satanic actors promoted via QAnon and other extremist narratives. Again, the goal would be then to radicalize the base and delegitimize Democratic opposition. Here's an example. This is from True Social this morning, posted 7 hours ago.
The radical left sleaze bags, which has no cards remaining in its illegal bag of tricks, is, in a very coordinated manner, in all caps, playing the ref with regard to the United States Supreme Court. They lost the election in a landslide, and with it, have totally lost their confidence and reason. They are stone cold, in all caps, crazy. I hope the Supreme Court doesn't fall for the games they play. The people are with us in bigger numbers than ever before. They want to make America great again.
Again, a judge and the judiciary introduces an injunction because of the unconstitutional approach of attempting to overturn or suspend birthright citizenship. So in the hive mind, as an attempt to distract his supporters, because he knows that, well, maybe he doesn't, but members of his cabinet know that birthright citizenship is in fact in the Constitution, he's going to find somebody else to blame. Now it's the judges. It's the radical, what's he call them? By the way, massive typo. The radical left sleazebags, which has no cards, should be have. The radical left sleazebags. Who would that be? Radical left sleazebag here. Excuse me. Good morning, Mr. Trump, Mr. Patel, Ms. Bondi, Facts, Steve, here every Monday through Friday, 8 to noon Eastern time. Fuck you. Have a day. So that's an example. All right. Okay. And then the media as the enemy, we just talked about that. At every chance that they can get, every opportunity that they can get, they'll discredit the media. And that is by design. And then we have historical examples. We'll get into that in just a minute. So mechanisms of disinformation spread. Social media amplification. We've talked about this many, many times. When the lie starts as an ember. You ever seen those survival shows where they've got their little bundle of wool or pine shavings, right? Or whatever it might be. And they've got flint and they light it and they're like, by the way, I can start a mean fire. And then you put it under your pile. So it starts as a spark and then it spreads like crazy. That's what social media has done to support disinformation and lies in the Trump campaign, right? Tinder. Yeah, it is Tinder. Correct. Thank you. Good call. When you have the power of social media, and we've talked about this before, social media spaces are dominated by right-wing voices. Dominated. It makes it easy to spread your viral misinformation and deceit and lies. Oftentimes fueled by Russian propaganda. We've seen that. Echo chambers and algorithm-driven radicalization. Right-wing media ecosystem, Fox News, OAN, whatever it might be, Newsmax, and influencers propagate unchallenged narratives. That's the issue, right? Fox sued for $750 million for misinformation, disinformation, and downright lies regarding Dominion. They weren't checked until it got to court. Even in the testimony before it went public, before they settled the case, Fox's lawyers were like, don't believe a word that Tucker Carlson says. But our society then gets influenced by it. Again, ignorance is bliss. Unwilling to challenge the narrative. Just going to believe whatever it is that you're told. And what's happened is the right now accuses the left of saying, you guys believe CNN. You guys just believe CNN. NBC. Rachel Maddow. That's all you believe. No, some do, sure. But we don't. We tend, to me, it's never about, who wins the argument. If I'm wrong about something, I want somebody to tell me that I'm wrong. That's the whole point. We're here trying to learn. But when you're stuck in this space where the only information that you're fed is misinformation, disinformation, and then the propagation of the lies being told from the top, then you're stuck in this cycle and there's no leaving it. And again, if we're going to look at it objectively, imagine you're in this space and you're being told the same thing every single day. And then you see the chyron, which is when you look at a news broadcast, when they put the banner across the bottom of the screen, it's called the chyron. It's what they're talking about at that particular moment. When they'll twist the narrative or the words, or they'll say something radicalized, or they'll say something that's intended to elicit an emotional response. That's going to suck you in. And if that's the only thing you get day after day after day, then you're going to believe that illegals, there's 100 gazillion illegals in the country, or the trans community is indoctrinating your kids. That you're gonna be, I'm not gonna say forced to believe it, but it's easy for you to become ignorant to the facts. That's why I say in Trump's America, ignorance is bliss, because you don't bother to fact check. You're just gonna be told what to think, and you'll believe it. You were told that your president was gonna lower your prices. You were told that your president was gonna end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours of being elected, never mind inaugurated. You're told by your president that your life and your pocketbook was going to get better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now that we're here and none of that has happened, you'll fall back on saying, well, he's only been in office 100 days. Give him time. And then it's like, well, the left is spinning this bullshit narrative. There's no possible way he could lower prices. You guys are fucking nuts. You see? That's the danger of this. All right. Again, mechanisms of the spread of disinformation, authoritarian rhetoric, loyalty tests, scapegoating, and discrediting dissent. I'll unpack that one for a bit. Loyalty tests. You are either with Trump or you are going to get primaried or you are going to get, in political speak, disappeared, or you're going to be called a rhino, or you're going to be part of the deep state, or you're going to be one of the reasons that the president's agenda can't pass, or you're a radical left judge who, just by the way, is doing their job defending the Constitution, and yet they're considered the enemy. Scapegoating. Who are we going to blame today? Think about the Trump economic policy, which is crippling America. Deporting thousands of people illegally, denying the rights for workers, cutting education. Let's just talk about the workers for a second. We have 4.1% unemployment rate, I think, roughly speaking. 7 or 8 million open jobs in our country, with more to come from all these firings and layoffs. Deporting people who, in many cases, do a lot of those jobs. So we're going to have to blame somebody, though. We're still going to blame people. We're not going to blame the people who are doing it. We're going to blame brown-skinned people, black-skinned people. We're going to blame the gays. We're going to blame members of LGBTQIA. We're going to blame women. We're going to blame seniors. We're going to blame teenagers. We're going to blame wokeness. We're going to blame DEI. There's always somebody to blame. And if you can't blame this group today, don't worry. We'll find a way to blame them tomorrow. Nothing to see here. And then discrediting dissent. Anybody who opposes, anybody who is in opposition. You're right, Michi. Teachers and scientists, doctors, physicians, doesn't matter. We're going to blame them, right? Discrediting dissent. Anybody who opposes this. Again, ignorance is bliss. Anybody who opposes it. Anybody. Think about this scenario, okay? There's a topic. Tariffs, okay? You're going to ask a hardcore MAGA, and you're going to ask a person who's not even a hardcore Democrat, just a liberal, somebody who believes, somebody who looks at research. The liberal's going to say tariffs are paid by the consumer. MAGA's going to say tariffs are paid by the exporting country. How do you break the tie? You go to the data. You research what a tariff is. You give examples historically. You tell them it's a tax. You tell them it's going to be paid by the American consumer. You show them evidence that Walmart and other companies are raising prices, right? They're raising their prices as a direct result of the tariffs. And MAGA will still not believe it because their leader will not tell them that. Their leader will tell them that we are bringing in trillions of dollars. We won the trade war. China folded. This is the kind of the world that we're in, y'all. And this is where I just said, y'all, everybody. This is the kind of the world that we're in now. We've got people don't care about the truth anymore. They just want to be told that they're part of a bigger mission. I'm in the fight to save America. I'm in the fight to return America to greatness. I'm in the fight to fix everything that the woke radical leftists broke. And I'm on a secret. There was this sales tactic that I learned a long, long time ago that in hindsight was pretty shady, but it made a lot of sense. Like if you're sitting across the desk from someone and you're pitching your product and they don't seem to be interested and you've called them numerous times and they're kind of blowing you off. As you're walking out the door, you say, okay, well, I appreciate your time, but I'll just take you off the list. You crumple up a paper, whether it's real or not, and you toss it in the trash can. And they measured this, and they got a significant response from like 60% of the people to say, wait, hold on. You're taking me off the list? I don't want to be off the list. people don't want to be off the list. People don't want to be kicked out of the club. So here we are, the people that are 10 toes down in support of their desire to make America great. If they at any point acknowledge that, wait, tariffs are paid by me? Well, there's got to be, that can't be right. There's got to be something to it. I don't want to get kicked out of the club. I don't want to just believe what I've been told by the left for years, that Trump's tariffs are going to affect my pocket. What do I do now? This is the fight that we're in. Okay. And then grievance politics, economic, cultural, racial anxieties weaponized into political loyalty. I don't think we even need to unpack that, right? And then consequences of a movement built on lies. Okay, everybody, please keep tapping and sharing. Don't forget about the gifting goal, and please don't forget to subscribe. Saw that too. Oh, that's a good one. Hold on. Greg's going through some shit, and every single day he makes these amazing backgrounds for me. We have this, we're symbiotic. We are connected because I just have an idea for a thought or something I want to do, and every single day he nails it. Greg's a veteran. Greg's a husband. Greg's a father. Greg's got a daughter in college, got a special needs kid, and he shows up for our community every single fucking day. I'm so grateful that he's in our life, and he goes behind the scenes, doesn't ask for flowers, but we're going to give him our flowers for today. So hearts in the chat for Greg, please. Thank you, guys. High Plains Grifter. Love it. Okay. You're the man. He's going to hate me for doing that, but get over it, buddy. Take your flowers. Okay. So the consequences of a movement built on a lie. Democratic erosion. Delegitimizing elections, courts, and peaceful transitions of power. So when your entire model is built on a lie, and you've built up your base to believe the lies, then everything out there that's in opposition to your lie is the enemy, which then erodes trust in elections, erodes trust in the democratic process, erodes trust in journalism, the courts, science, etc. Okay? Fundamental principle of our system of government is the peaceful transfer of power. You don't have that, you don't have a democracy. Public health harm. C-19 misinformation led to vaccine refusal and excess unalivings. It's true. It happened. I don't blame Trump for COVID. I blame him for his response or lack thereof. I think Operation Warp Speed, we could look back on that and say that was great that we got vaccines on the market that quickly. All right? But he lied to the American people, withheld information, delegitimized Dr. Fauci, delegitimized science. And now we have Robert F. Kennedy, who's been an anti-vax rhetoric spreader of misinformation his entire life. So again, when you live in this world of lies, when you honor and celebrate the High Plains grifter, you're stuck. Political violence, from the Capitol riot to threats against school boards, officials, judges. Now there's talk of locking up Democratic members of Congress because they are in opposition. If you don't have anything to hide, then why do you want to throw your opposition in jail? If you don't have anything to hide, then why do you want to take the licenses away from journalists? If you don't have anything to hide, why do you want to erase history? If you don't have anything to hide, then why can't you be transparent as to who your investors are in your new crypto meme coin? Funny. And then policy dysfunction. Truth denial leads to ineffective and or harmful governance. Creating policies, executive orders, laws being passed state by state to ban trans athletes from school functions. You guys know my dude, Tommy, was talking about this, and this is a great point. Imagine this. You're at a Texas school. We'll just use Texas high school because they're big. There could be a track meet on the track that involves one trans athlete. At the same time, there's a school shooting happening in the building. And the rhetoric that we will get from the right is going to be more focused on the trans athlete than on the school shooting. I don't think that's a stretch. I think that's true. Because again, scapegoating, somebody to blame, denials about the reality of what we have. There are more accusations and or charges against members of the Trump administration for crimes against women than there are trans athletes in America. Okay? So the truth will set you free. Okay, then the recommendations. So recommendations for policy and then civil response. This is for us. Media literacy initiatives. Invest in education to help citizens identify disinformation. How many times have you guys heard me say this? I'll say it again. Overfund public education. I want them swimming in cash. I want media literacy as part of every single curriculum in every public school across the nation. I would love, if it were to work out for me, I would love to go to a high school locally and say, I want to introduce curriculum for media literacy and start them in middle school. Because we don't teach it. We don't. Exactly. $1 trillion education, Mishi. Absolutely. Sign me the fuck up or more. Or more. If we can spend $1 trillion on our defense, again, think about this. The argument for people who want to do that is that we want the best military in the world. Okay, can we lose the same argument then for education? We're going to invest $1 trillion in education because, wait for it, we want the best public education in the world. New Jersey does it. Massachusetts does it. Rhode Island does it. Vermont does it. Other states do it. Red states do it too. Florida scores high in test scores. Their curriculum's fucked, but their public schools are doing well. It's not that hard a concept. Media literacy training. We need it. Tech accountability. Regulate platforms that enable viral spread of falsehoods. So this push that you got from the Trump administration going after the Biden administration, because the Biden administration reached out to Meta and others saying, listen, what is your policy regarding COVID C-19 misinformation being spread? It's not that they told them that they had to take it down. They just asked them to. Because the Biden administration followed the law. The Trump administration wants to take away licenses of people who promote things that are anti-Trump, anti-Christian nationalist, anti-Yahtzee. There's a difference. Okay? There's a difference. If you were so sure what you were saying was the truth, then why do you want to squelch it? And I remember Chrissy Teigen, Donald Trump is a pussy-ass bitch. Put that on her. That sounds so great. Donald Trump is a pussy-ass bitch. And that was on her Twitter feed. And he got all up in his shit and lost his mind and demanded that it be taken down. Okay. And then counter narratives. Support truth-based storytelling and depolarizing engagement. Me. Me and others like me. Up here just trying to cut through the noise. Support creators that you like. Variety of ways you can do it, either on their lives, on their platforms, subscribe to their YouTube channels, and then be out there and educate yourself so that you can be a voice of resistance. Go to town hall meetings. Demand responses from your elected officials. Demand that they answer questions. Don't settle for little bites of the apple, right? I don't want expanded coverage in the ACA. I want universal health care. And make the argument that we can afford it. We went through the exercise yesterday of Bernie's Medicare for All plan and all the things that we could get that we can easily pay for. If we can have our taxes increased to pay $1 billion to have a jet retrofitted that we just gifted by a terrorist supporting country in Qatar, then we can certainly afford education for our kids, food for our kids, safety and public health for our seniors, and better education. I think we can do it. Yeah. The MAGA movement represents a political subculture wherein power is maintained through belief in demonstrable falsehoods. Think about that again. The MAGA movement represents a political subculture wherein power is maintained through belief in demonstrable falsehoods. Confronting its danger requires a multi-pronged strategy that centers truth, transparency, and civic resilience. So this, right? When we talk about this in terms of we the people, we talk about it in terms of the things that we can do on the collective to push back against this stuff. Friends, don't relent on the truth. Don't ever relent on the truth. If you are convicted and you're willing to do the work and say, okay, well, this is what the data tells me. Not some narrative, not some opinion, because we're all entitled to opinions. What's the data? What is the data? All right. I think I saw a request in there. They might have left. All right, everybody keep tapping and sharing. I appreciate you guys very, very much. All right. I want to talk about the story of this case in Florida. I'm sorry, in Georgia, Adriana Smith. This is a difficult story to report on, and I've been, wanting to make sure I had as much time to talk about it as possible. So I want to do it now. And this kind of relates to exactly what it is that we're talking about because of the lies that the right has been told about access or women's access to healthcare. So in case you don't know the story, pregnant woman in Georgia was declared brain dead after a medical emergency, and doctors have kept her on life support for 3 months so far to allow enough time for the baby to be born and comply with Georgia's strict anti-abortion law. She could be kept in that state for months more. The case is the latest consequence of abortion bans introduced in some states since the Supreme Court overturned Roe 3 years ago. Adriana Smith, a 30-year-old mother and nurse, was declared brain dead, meaning she is legally passed. In February, her mother, April Newkirk, told the Atlanta TV station WXIA. Newkirk said her daughter had intense headaches more than 3 months ago and went to Atlanta's Northside Hospital where she received medication and was released. The next morning, her boyfriend woke to her gasping for air, called 911. Emory University Hospital determined she had blood clots in her brain and then was declared deceased. Newkirk said Smith is now 21 weeks pregnant. Removing breathing tubes and other life-saving devices would likely unalive the fetus. Northside Hospital did not respond to a request for comment on Thursday. Emory Healthcare said it could not comment on an individual case because of privacy rules, but released a statement saying, quote, it uses consensus from clinical experts, medical literature, and legal guidance to support our providers as they make individualized treatment recommendations in compliance with Georgia's abortion laws and all other applicable laws. Our top priorities continue to be the safety and well-being of the patients we serve. Smith's family says Emory's doctors have told them that they are not allowed to stop or remove the devices that are keeping her breathing because state laws ban abortion after cardiac activity can be detected. Generally around 6 weeks into pregnancy. The law was adopted in 2019, but not enforced until after Roe v. Wade was overturned in the Dobbs decision. 12 states are enforcing bans on abortion at all stages of pregnancy, and 3 others have bans like Georgia's that kick in about after 6 weeks. Georgia's ban includes an exception if an abortion is necessary to maintain the woman's life. Those exceptions have been at the heart of legal and political questions, including a major Texas Supreme Court decision ruling last year that found the ban there applies even when there are major pregnancy complications. Smith's family, including her 5-year-old son, still visit her in the hospital to this day. Newkirk told WXIA the doctors told the family that the fetus has fluid on the brain and that they're concerned about its health. She's pregnant with my grandson, said the mom, a grandmother. But he may be blind, may not be able to walk, may not survive once he's born. She said she has not said whether the family wants Smith removed from life support. Monica Simpson, executive director of Sister Song, the lead plaintiff in a lawsuit challenging Georgia's abortion law, said the situation is extremely problematic. Quote, her family deserved the right to have the decision-making power about her medical conditions. Instead, they have endured over 90 days of re-traumatization, expensive medical costs, and the cruelty of being unable to resolve and move forward. Lois Shepard, a bioethicist and law professor at the University of Virginia, said she does not believe life support is legally required in this case, but she said whether a state could insist Smith remains on life support is uncertain since the overturning of Roe, which has found that fetuses do not have the rights of people. We discussed this a couple days ago. It comes down to the kind of society that you want, ultimately. Wrangling over the nuance of the law, wrangling over all these, lawsuits. It should come down to what is the right thing to do. Like, what is the right thing to do? She's an incubator at this point. Like, what is the right thing to do? Her child has to see her mother unalived, waiting for her brother or sister to be born, and that likelihood of that child surviving is so slim. It's like, what is the right thing to do? I don't know I don't know the answer, other than the cruelty is the point. It's a disturbing story. Hi, Martina. How are you?
Hi. Disturbed, as is the trend. If you don't mind if I add a little bit to the story.
Sure, go for it. Yeah, I got a bunch more, but I saw you requested, so go for it.
Oh, I don't want to jump the shark then. Please.
No, go for it.
Please go ahead.
No, please. No,
I think
I got you.
One thing
I don't have a uterus, so please.
Yeah, I think one thing that's super important for us to note in this entire situation as well is that Black women are disbelieved at a higher rate than other women are in this country. And we have an issue of maternal mortality here in part because women are disbelieved, and Black women suffer from that at a much higher rate. And this was Adriana Smith was a Black woman who was a nurse, who knew something was wrong, who reported that something was wrong, who tried to get care for what was wrong. She had headaches and was shortly thereafter wound up with multiple brain bleeds, and that's how she wound up brain unalived. So she had symptoms. She knew something was wrong. She was trained in this field, and she was still disbelieved. And that is a part of how misogynoir unalives Black women in this.
Yeah, there's a term for it. To your point, there's a term for it. It's medical racism. It's been studied. We've seen it. It's been studied for decades. Sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to, if you were getting there, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to make sure that
that's
part
okay.
of
Go for it, please.
The story remains important because I think we were having a panel yesterday, and it is really important for us to center women's issues, but it's really, really, really important for us not to forget the intersectionality and the need to support further research into undoing medical racism and helping solve this problem that's out there. So I've got a message out to the Black Maternal Healthcare Caucus to ask if there's more legislation for us to help push. And I'm trying to find more nonprofits focused on Black maternal health care. But I just wanted to make sure that part of the story isn't being lost.
I appreciate that. I mean, I was listening to, as I couldn't sleep last night, another live that I was going into, and just some of the horrible things that were being said in support of this, in their minds, life. I've made it very, very clear that I stand in support of women's rights to their body. And it seems as simple to say something like that, but in the world we live in now, there's clearly the right thing to do. And people have just gotten so far away from what is the right thing to do. The right thing to do in this case is to pull the plug. That is the right thing. It should have been done weeks ago. That's the right thing to do. And I'm sure you're right. It's cruelty. Cruelty is the point. And that's the part that I really struggle with now as an empath. I know you are as one as well. We're faced with a horrible situation, but yet politics has made it exponentially worse, unnecessarily. Where's the fucking humanity? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, and it's to disrespect the wishes. We don't know if this woman wanted to be an organ donor, but we know that this woman didn't want to be in this state. And in my opinion, this woman is being held hostage and treated as less than human. But you can drop me if you want to get back to your program. I just
appreciate
make
you,
sure we're
Martina.
not forgetting to say her name and remembering the complexities of medical racism in this case, because this didn't have to happen if they had just looked, if they had just listened.
I totally agree. I appreciate you, friend, for being here. Thanks very much. See you later. Let's see. Somebody just made a comment. I want to address it. Where is it? Somebody said that they agree, but that we should leave it up to the family. The right thing to do is to leave it up to the family. I agree. That is the right thing to do. But the family, even if they were adamant about it, the law in the state of Georgia is what's keeping her on life support. So you could hear the words of Adriana Smith's mother saying, listen, the likelihood of this child being viable is this fetus being viable is slim to none. So again, then leave it up to the family. If the family decides to pull the plug, then the Georgia law should not intervene. And that's where the hospital's hands are tied. Again, what's the right thing to do? And it's disturbing. It's disgusting. I don't even know. Again, for those of us who believe in humanity, for those of us who believe it just in common sense as we approach these horrible situations, it seems like the goal is to just make it worse. To what end? Hi, Olive.
Good morning. We were talking about this in your mod chat, and I made a video on it, and I responded to a couple different things. The one thing that is more infuriating is the aspect, I want to say it was back in the beginning of this year, Georgia repealed their Life Act, which is what this law, aka their heartbeat bill, is put into place. They re-put it in, and that's how she's stuck in her situation right now. And not Monica. Me and Martina were on a panel, and we really, again, the focal front is the aspect of not only medical racism, but
Can you drive for a second? I got to take a quick break.
I can drive for a second.
Thank you.
I got you. The other big issue with this whole thing is the perspective of if she received that CT scan, it could have been a whole different perspective. Not even to mention the sole aspect that the medical debt and the emotional mental turmoil of this family cannot properly mourn this woman, can't mourn their daughter, can't mourn their mother, because mind you, she has I believe he's 6 or 7 year old kid. He understands that mom's asleep. That's the only thing he understands. But again, Martina brought up a really good point, and I think that's what needs to be echoed. And for all of us who are cottage cheese complexioned or Mayo sapiens, especially women, the biggest focal forefront is the aspect of the medical racism that is currently occurring. And that's what we're witnessing right now. But as I'm up here, y'all can keep booping the screen, boop the plane, sharing the live, promote, support Steve and everything he does. But I took most of the day yesterday and I wrote emails to every single Republican representative in Georgia and explained to them how absolutely frustrating this is.
Yeah, thank you. Medical racism. Listen, I believe women, and in our country in particular doesn't trust women, and in particular doesn't trust Black women, and women of color in general. But Black women in particular, we see it. And when I talk about this from a political perspective, Black women show up every single time democracy's on the line, and we don't show up for them.
No, we don't.
So this is another example, right?
And
so
calling out, white women in general, we tend to fall behind in general. So instead of seeing, Black women constantly out on the streets, they're constantly going to the voting polls, they're constantly voting in the right direction. We as YT people need to understand that we need to step the fuck up. I think every single Black woman needs to continue doing what they're doing, and we just need to start showing up, because ultimately we're larger in number and we're not doing enough.
To say the least. Thank you, Olive. I appreciate you very much, friend.
I love you, Steve. Bye, guys.
Love you too. See you later. All right, bye. we'll be watching that story, obviously. Okay. And just in case you were not watching the news, the 17 family members of notorious cartel leaders enters the U.S. and deal with the Trump administration, Mexico says. The family of El Chapo has been now granted access to the United States. So again, it's not about trafficking. It's not about drug trafficking. It's just about deals with the administration. Nothing to see here, though, right? Yeah. Mexico security chief confirmed Tuesday that 17 family members of cartel leaders crossed into the U.S. last week as part of a deal between a son of the former head of the Sinaloa cartel and the Trump administration. Mexican Security Secretary Omar Garcia Harfuch confirmed a report by independent journalist Luis Chaparro that family members of Ovidio Guzman Lopez, who was extradited to the United States in 2023, had entered the U.S. Guzman Lopez is one of the brothers left running a faction of the Sinaloa cartel after El Chapo Guzman was imprisoned in the U.S. Videos showed the family members walking across the border from Tijuana with their suitcases to waiting U.S. agents. El Chapo's ex-wife, Griselda Lopez Perez, and her daughter were among the family members to enter the U.S., Mexico News Daily reported. Rumors had circulated last week that the younger Guzman would plead guilty to avoid trial for several trafficking charges in the U.S. after being extradited in 2023. Mexican security forces captured Lopez, alias the Mouse, in January 2023 in Culiacan, capital of the Sinaloa state. Garcia Harfuch confirmed the family members crossing in a radio interview and said it was clear to Mexican authorities that they were doing so after negotiating between Guzman Lopez and the U.S. government. He believed that was the case because the former cartel boss, whose lawyer said in January he had entered negotiations with the U.S. authorities, had been pointing fingers at members of other criminal organizations, likely as part of a cooperation agreement. It is evident that his family is going to the U.S. because of a negotiation or an offer that the Department of Justice is giving him. He said none of the family members were being pursued by Mexican authorities and that the government of President Trump has to share information with Mexican prosecutors, something it has not yet done. Let's try to be objective for a second, okay? Law enforcement makes deals with people in various layers of organized crime or whatever it might be. It's not outside of the scope to accept that objectively, right? It's within reason for us to say, okay, maybe they have information on cartels so that maybe they can aid us in getting arrests made or doing this and doing that. I'm stretching here, right? I am stretching. This is a full-on yoga moment, okay? Downward dog to try to make the point about being objective. In this case, there is none of that information. That is the argument that the Trump administration will use, that it's okay to allow these people to cross the border. To what end? Story that we'll continue to watch. Pretty disturbing. That, again, the entire push is stopping the cartels. The entire push is reducing drug access into the United States, right? That famous cabinet meeting where Pam Bondi said 258 million American lives have been saved in the first 100 days of your presidency, President Trump. Okay, Pam. Really? Okay, so now, exactly, supposedly. Now, here we are, access to one of the largest cartels in Mexico, and they are now granted access to our country. Now, one would say, if this were to happen under the Biden administration, well, now they're going to be spies. Now they're going to be on the inside. Now they're going to be here and they're going to be providing intelligence to the rest of the cartel so that they can figure out ways to illegally enter our country as well. But no, not under the Trump administration. No, it's all part of the plan to make more arrests. This goes back to the media narrative that we just discussed. Okay? Make it make sense. It doesn't. We'll watch that story. Okay, I played that. We talked about the higher prices from Walmart, okay? Rare warning from Walmart during a U.S. trade war, higher prices are inevitable. Let's talk about this real quick. Walmart, which became the nation's largest retailer by making low prices a priority, has found itself in a place it's rarely been, warning customers that prices will rise for goods ranging from bananas to car seats. Executives at the $750 billion company, again, Walmart, think about this before we get into this story. Walmart employees are some of the biggest recipients of federal subsidies, SNAP program benefits, food stamps, things along those lines, because Walmart doesn't pay their people. Walmart is a $750 billion company. Walmart, right? Here's the fucking corruption circle. Federal subsidies to support Walmart employees because they can't make enough money to survive, a livable wage. They get their federal subsidies and then they spend their money at Walmart. So it's the double dip. They don't have to pay their employees very much. Federal subsidies are spent at Walmart. And now they're announcing that 30% price increase, whatever the number is. Here's the problem with this. I don't know if anybody's talked about this, but this kind of just popped into my head. Let's talk about the trade war that our president lost. What is it? Ballistic podiatry, shooting the American economy in the foot unnecessarily. All right. 30% seems to be the number that they're negotiating off of right now. The right is going to say the Trump administration won. So let's think that through for a second. Initiating tariffs, prices go up based on the result. 10%, 20%, 30%, 50%. They reach a high of 154%. China retaliates. Okay. Now, instead of just going back to the way it was before these tariffs took effect, now it's a blanket tariff, 30% on the cost of everything. Think about that from the corporate world. All right. There's no way consumers are going to be paying ridiculous amounts of money, 154%. 30%, that's a bit more palatable. They'll pay for that. Who makes the money, friends? The corporations. So Walmart's going to raise their prices. They're going to benefit. Consumers are going to have to pay more. Walmart's profits will continue to go up because they are the ones that are going to be the beneficiaries of prices going up. And here we are. It's all about follow the what, friends? Smartest chat on TikTok? Follow the fucking money. $750 billion company is about to get richer. Given the magnitude of the duties, the highest since the 1930s, Smoot-Hawley, right? Higher prices are unavoidable, and they will hurt Walmart customers already buffeted by inflation over the past 3 years. Trump's threatened 145% import taxes on Chinese goods were reduced to 30% in a deal announced Monday, with some of the higher tariffs on pause for 90 days. Those higher prices began to appear on Walmart shelves in late April. Again, we won't get the indicator as to the impact of inflation until next month as we start to see it, and accelerated this month. Walmart executives said Thursday. However, a large sting will start to be felt in June and July when the back-to-back school shopping season goes into high gear. We're wired to keep prices as low as we can, but there's a limit to what we can bear, or any retailer for that matter. CFO John David Rainey told the AP on Thursday after the company reported strong first quarter sales. Rainey emphasized that prices are rising not just for discretionary items such as patio furniture and trendy fashions, but for basic necessities as well. The price of bananas imported from Costa Rica rose 50 cents per pound to 54 cents. He thinks car seats made in China currently sell for $350 at Walmart will likely cost consumers an additional $100. Baby strollers are also sourced from China. Higher prices arrive as many Americans pull back on spending as they grow increasingly uneasy about the economy. A slew of companies, including toy manufacturer Mattel, toolmaker Stanley, Black & Decker, consumer product giant Procter & Gamble have announced similar price hikes and additional plans to raise prices even further. Okay, so the world that we now live in, right? And I want to explain because they are talking about the cost of strollers going up nearly maybe $100 per stroller. Our president, not exactly in tune with the American public, said this.
costs are down. Everything is down other than, as Tristan said, the thing that can carry the babies around in. But that's up 3%.
A stroller. He doesn't know what the fuck a stroller is. He doesn't care. So this then goes back to, let me bring this back up, because I think this goes back to exactly what I want to talk about today, right? How ignorance is bliss. So people, let's be real about the demographics of our nation. There are in many cases, Walmart is the only game in town, right? By the way, the last state in America to have a Walmart was Vermont. Just want to throw that out there. Also, Montpelier is the only state capital in America that does not have a McDonald's. I'm just saying. So here we are. Rural communities across the country heavily support the twice impeached, four-time indicted sexual abuse and fraud or convicted felon. Those stores not only employ a lot of Trump voters, okay? You're right, Vermont does not exist. Does not exist. Don't tell anybody. Not only do Walmarts employ a lot of Trump voters, but a lot of those same voters shop there, especially the supercenters, right? Where you can get your groceries and everything else. You can get your groceries, your pew-pew powder, your ammo, your car seats, and everything else, right? Those stores, under the CEO just announced that prices are going to be going up, right? Prices, friends, don't go down. Don't go down. Again, let me repeat myself. Prices don't go down. Sales, sure, but they don't. I mentioned this yesterday. Let me see if I can find it. They've been tracking particular big ticket items for decades. Let me see if I can find the chart, because I think this is appropriate for our discussion right now. Like I said, big ticket items in general don't go down. And when they classify big ticket, there's some of the things you would think of. So let me see if I can find it, because I think this is appropriate for this conversation. Everybody, while I'm filibustering, please tap and share. Please like the live. Please consider gifting. I'd appreciate that very, very much. Whether it be a heart, whether it be a fancy gift, send it my way. All right, where is it? I'll find it, because I think it's perfect to play, or perfect to talk about right now, because it is the exact point that this part of the conversation makes about the impact on the American consumer, the American taxpayer, you, me, our neighbors, our family members. Where is the chart? Here you go. Okay. So over the last, this goes back, this is tracked by JP Morgan and based on the U.S. Consumer Price Index, or the CPI. This goes back to 1983. So this is the percent change in these various things from December of 1982 to December of 2024. Okay, so what's that? A 30-year gap that we can look at now. 4 years. I'll go from the bottom up. Apparel has increased 34%. Cars have increased 76%. Coffee has gone up 143%. Gas, 192. Sweets, 200%. CPI overall is up 225%. Housing up 248%. Medical care up 486%. And the college tuition is up 900%. Point being, prices don't go down. So the trade war initiated by our president, unnecessarily selling the lie to the American public that that's going to bring jobs back to America. No, it's not. We are never going to be a manufacturing nation again. Happy Friday to you too. Thank you, Leanne. Happy Friday to you too. Prices don't go down. Okay? We always have inflation. Consumers then conditioned to think about during C-19. The price of everything went up, right? Shortage, supply and demand. Have you seen your prices drop since then? Have your grocery bills gotten cheaper? Of course they haven't, because corporations are making money. Again, think about the model that we now have. And this could be part of the plot. Who knows? Talk about the deep state on behalf of the American corporations, not the American consumer. We roll back these tariffs to 30%. So Walmart's going to pass that cost on to their consumers. We're going to do it anyway, but now they come out with a statement saying, yeah, it's inevitable. Our prices are going up. What is MAGA going to do? Well, short-term pain, long-term gain. Nope. Short-term pain, longer-term pain. Because not only are your prices going up, but jobs are being cut. Federal employees in a lot of communities comprise a lot of MAGA voters. They don't even realize it, but they do. Jobs are being cut. Industries are being shuttered. Products are dying on the vine because we don't have anybody to pick it. And here we are, Walmart telling folks in their communities that your prices are going to go up. Remember Amazon wanted to do that thing on their prices? They wanted to add the Trump tariff. I don't know if that was fake news or whatever, but that got reported. Amazon immediately responded, and then Jeff Bezos shows up at the White House and whatever. Prices don't go down. Deflation, bad. Inflation, bad. Deflation, worse. Ain't going to happen, okay? And we saw the unemployment number, the inflation number for April go down a little bit from March. Those are not always good indicators. Mr. Global has talked about this as you talk about it from a fuel perspective. We now know that this deal that Trump is making with Iran, which is like fucking whatever they're doing there, who the hell knows, that's again to access Iranian oil, which is going to flood the market again. Who's going to suffer? Domestic oil manufacturers, domestic oil producers. Jobs are going to get cut. Same thing that happened before. So here we are. We're approaching the driving season. Gas prices are going to go up. Oil prices are going to go down. Gas prices might come down a little bit, but by and large, no. Again, you've been lied to. Again, you've been lied to. How do you get out of this? What was the statement? This is the biggest piece that I pulled away from this exercise that I did for you guys. I hope you appreciated it. Where is it? All right. This is the response. I don't have it. Do I have it? I don't have it. Media literacy. We have to understand this because no matter what, you're going to pay $3.24 at the pump. Trump's going to tell you it's $1.98. You're going to believe that it's $1.98. I know Walmart just serves a purpose, but it's so many families are about to get impacted. And then we can get into the specifics of the budget. Before I do that, though, I want to share some other stark numbers with you. I found this. This is Bureau of Labor's data, and I think it's really it's concerning, but it's obvious. So where is it? First, let me do this first, okay? Trump's Saudi trip, the Middle Eastern trip, right? Jared Kushner got $2 billion from the Saudis. Kash Patel worked as a security consultant for Qatar. Pam Bondi was a registered foreign agent, following the law, as a lobbyist for the state of Qatar. Eric Trump inked a deal to develop $5.5 billion golf club just north of Doha, Qatar, called the Trump International Golf Club. Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates firm, invested $2 billion in the Trump family cryptocurrency company, Liberty Financial. Trump's organization announced the development of an 80-floor residential building and club called the Trump International Hotel and Tower in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. The felon accepts a $400 million luxury jet from Qatar. And the felon makes a military arms deal with Saudi Arabia for $142 billion. If Barack Obama got dragged for a tan suit, Joe Biden got dragged because they claimed that his net worth skyrocketed during his presidency. He wrote books and was given a book deal. And then the Biden crime family. Right. I want to play that sound because it is so fucking disturbing. Do I have it still? I know I got to play it for you guys because it is the epitome of the bullshit hypocrisy that we hear from the fucking right these days. Well, first of all, we know what it is. what it is we've got to run cover for the big guy, because we can't let people just be like believing that we think that it's the same thing. We couldn't find anything in regards to corruption, crime to the Biden crime family, but we're going to just make this argument. Is this the one? No, I have it though. It's just disgusting. Hold on. Everybody keep tapping and sharing. Appreciate you very much. I'll find it. I'm vamping. Right here. Okay. This is fucked up. But this is Mike Johnson. Okay. This is this is an attempt to justify what we've now seen. Okay, here you go.
Speaker, you were very critical of President Biden and his family's foreign business dealings. You supported an impeachment inquiry as a result of it. Are you equally concerned about President Trump's family's business dealings, especially given the fact that he is in a region now where his family has billions of dollars of investments in Doha and Saudi Arabia, and the fact that he has a crypto business now where he's auctioned off access to the White House for the highest bidder in his meme coin?
Look, there are authorities that the police, executive branch, ethics rules. I'm not an expert in that. My expertise is here in the House. Okay, I'll say that the reason many people refer to the Bidens as the Biden crime family is because they were doing all this stuff behind curtains, in the back rooms. They were trying to conceal it, and they repeatedly lied about it. And they set up shell companies, and the family was all engaged and getting all on the dole. Whatever that President Trump is doing is out in the open. They're not trying to conceal anything.
Just so we're clear, the Trump family corruption is in the open, so it's okay. And yet there was no crimes connecting Joe Biden to anything, but that was under the cover of darkness. Okay.
But Mr. Speaker, the investment in the meme coin, those folks are not transparent. We do not know who those people are.
I don't know anything about the meme coin thing. I don't know. I can just tell you that President Trump has had nothing to hide. He's very upfront about it. And there are people who watch all the ethics of that. But I've got to be concerned with running the House of Representatives.
Is it congressional oversight, though? That's the congressional responsibility, isn't it?
Congress has oversight responsibility. But I think so far as I know, the ethics are all being followed. So, yes, sir.
As far as you know, the ethics are all being followed. Once again, friends, Mike Johnson, not a stupid guy. When he's not monitoring his son's use of corn, he's a constitutional lawyer, not a dumb guy. All right, not a stupid guy. He's going to stand there at his daily presser, because the Speaker of the House, if you've never been to the Capitol, you know, there's a chamber. They've got access to their own press room. Okay. You're going to stand there in front of the American people and say, look, I don't know what's going on with the Trump administration, but their corruption is transparent. You don't worry, which in a way is true because Trump tells it himself every fucking day. Their corruption is transparent, but the Biden crime family, what about Biden? The Biden crime family did it under the cover of darkness, even though they didn't commit any crimes. None. The House Oversight and Judiciary Committee, their own witnesses said, no, we didn't see any crimes. I don't even know why you brought me here. We didn't see any crimes. Funny, right? Okay, this I'm going to share some more data with you guys because this is a disturbing set of numbers. Let me see if I can find it. I have it right here. Again, the Middle Eastern trip was just an opportunity for the Trump family to enrich itself even more. And if you are okay with a $400 million jet being given to the administration, then I would like you to address this with Mark Wayne Mullen. Mark Wayne Mullen is a senator from, where's he from? Oklahoma? We're going to talk about Oklahoma in a second. So this was Mark Wayne Mullen being asked the question about, are you okay with the Trump administration being given a jet? Asking senators about Trump's plan to accept a $400 million jet from Qatar. This is Mark Wayne Mullen, who's MAGA, hardcore MAGA. This was his answer.
Can I get your reaction to Trump doubling down on accepting the $400 million jet from Qatar?
I have zero issue with it.
You have zero issue with it? Do you think it raises ethics concerns or national security concerns?
You ever been to New York and saw the Statue of Liberty? That was a gift too.
Do you have any safety concerns about, this coming from a foreign government?
So you know anything about safety and our security and our intel? Do you know anything about it? So do you think we're really going to take a plane and not strip it and put all the Air Force One stuff in it, even if it came brand new from the factory? If you don't understand that basic knowledge, then you probably shouldn't be reporting on it.
Okay. Lady Liberty was a gift to the United States. Sits in New York Harbor for all of us to see. If you've never been to Ellis Island and Liberty Island, please go. It's really a moving thing to see. It really, really is. Please go. Make it a point to go. The French government gifted it to the United States. Bring me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free is part of what her Liberty poem says. For all of us to enjoy. So in Mark Wayne Mullen's mind, Donald Trump accepting a gift for himself and his personal use is the same thing as Lady Liberty or the Resolute Desk being given to the office of the presidency, not an individual. Something else that he said in there, by the way. So the retrofitting of the new Air Force One, again, only to be used by Mr. Trump and then transferred to the Trump library, is going to cost American taxpayers well north of $1 billion. Something that the Trump administration said, no, we don't need to accept that. We're looking out for the American people. Why would we want American taxpayers to pay $1 billion plus? Why would we want them to do that? That would be ridiculous. That would not be responsible. No, Mr. Trump doesn't feel that way. I've got some excellent sound to play on this. Do I? Hope I do. Hope I have it queued up. I don't. This is what happens when you don't sleep much. You're not as prepared as I usually am. He just liked it. He just wants it because he liked the way it looks. I got to find it. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry I'm bouncing around a little bit today, but it's worth it because we're painting the picture, okay? So Mark Wayne Mullen, senator from Oklahoma, wants you to believe, he wants you guys to believe that the Statue of Liberty is no different than Trump getting a gift from the Qatari government, a government that he has lambasted in the past, calling them funders of terrorism. And now, I'll gladly accept the keys to the jumbo jet that I fell in love with. You got to hear this, though. It's worth it for me to find it. It's a fucking joke. It's a joke. And he's playing in our face because first of all, he's too stupid to know any better. This is what he had to say about the Qatari government. Okay. This is pretty disturbing.
Unfortunately, has historically been a funder of terrorism at a very high level. And in the wake of that conference, nations came together and spoke to me about confronting Qatar over its behavior. So we had a decision to make. Do we take the easy road or do we finally take a hard but necessary action? We have to stop the funding of terrorism.
It's going to be very interesting.
Mr. President, what do you say to people who view that luxury jet as a personal gift to you? Why not leave it behind?
You're ABC fake news, right?
Why not?
It's only ABC. Well, a few of you would. Let me tell you, you should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us. I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much.
As a businessman, some people may look at this and say, have you ever been given a gift worth millions of dollars and then not received anything?
It's not a gift to me. It's a gift to the Department of Defense. And you should know better because you've been embarrassed enough, and so has your network. Your network is a disaster. ABC is a disaster. Here is the bill. Bobby, come on over here.
Nation of Qatar.
Okay, so again, just so we're clear, in 2017, the first bit of sound you heard there was him saying, look, we've got to go after the nation of Qatar because they are funding terrorism. And then here we are, 7 short years later, the Qatari government says, Mr. President, we want to give you a $400 million luxury liner for you to use for perpetuity. You can use during your administration, and then it will be transferred to the Trump library. Therefore, no one else gets to use it. $400 million, the cost of the plane, $1 billion or more to retrofit. Who the fuck knows how long that's going to take? Mark Wayne Mullen is angry or is attempting to justify it because in his mind, it's no different than the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty and the Resolute Desk, by the way, gifts, both approved by Congress. That's the point. I got to find this one piece of sound because it's just, here you go. This is it. Okay. This is just, this right here, what I'm about to play is the whole thing. This is the whole game. This is manosphere. This is Trumpism. This is MAGA. This is tough guy. This is American strength of America. This is political dick measuring. This is it. Okay.
Plane, not a new plane at all, but they had a plane. And you know, these planes, the plane that you're on right now is almost 40 years old. And when you land and you see Saudi Arabia and you see UAE and you see Qatar and you see all these, and they have these brand new Boeing 747s mostly, and you see ours next to it. This is like a totally different plane. It's much smaller. It's much less impressive, as impressive as it is. And, you know, we're the United States of America. I believe that we should have the most impressive plane. So anyway, so they said to me, we would like to, in effect, we would like to make a gift. You've done so many things. And we'd like to make a gift to the Defense Department, which is where it's going. And they said, well, that's nice. Now, some people say, oh, you shouldn't accept gifts for the country. My attitude is, why wouldn't I accept a gift? We're giving to everybody else. Why wouldn't I accept a gift? Because it's going to be a couple of years, I think, before the Boeings are finished. And they'll be wonderful when they're finished, but that's a long time.
And again, the beginning of that sound that we just played for you. So he said, Qatar, you guys have done wonderful things. Okay.
Unfortunately, has historically been a funder of terrorism.
There you go. Okay. So let's try to unpack this in the MAGA hive mind. 7 years ago, when he was president the first time, and then all through his campaign, in fact, I even have more sound that I can play for you. Hold on.
Talking about the jumbo jet.
Hold on. This is. I'm gonna pile on the twice impeached, 4-time indicted, sexually abusing fraudster, convicted felon right now, because it's appropriate for me to do so. Because again, convincing his voters that it's okay for me to do now because I'm the president, but it was not okay then. So where is that? This is the last little pivot that I'll make today, I promise. But this is an important one as well. This one speaks to his. Where is it? Hold on. Stand by. Standing by. Where is it? I've got it someplace. Do I have that? I think I do. Maybe I don't. In his debate with Hillary Clinton, he went after Saudi. He went after Qatar. He went after all of them, criticizing them for funding terrorism. And then here we are. Now he's accepting money. So it was okay then for me to criticize them because I was running. I'm trying to call out the machine. But now that I'm in office, I'm going to accept that gift with hands wide open. Hands wide open. Sorry, my Creed impression. It just goes to show you how far we've fallen, right? He's one of them. He's funding terrorism. He is critical of Iran, but now I'm going to make a deal. You pulled us out of the Iranian nuclear deal, by the way, the first time. Here we are again. Now you're negotiating to line your fucking pockets. Nice, right? Okay. So back to what I wanted to. All this sort of leads into the mind of the autocrat, right? Before I play that, I wanted. This is Mike Lawler. Mike Lawler's he's a weird. He's a Republican member of Congress from New York, District 4. He's weird. I can't figure him out. There are times that I'm like, okay, and then there are times like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? He's on with Bill Maher, and this is what he had to say about Chuck Schumer.
Some of these people don't know when it's time to go. They don't. Chuck Schumer has been in elected office for 50 years. 1974, he was first elected. 50 years. AOC will absolutely kick his ass in a primary. Yeah. She is the leader of the Democratic Party in this moment.
Agreed.
And will continue to be, I think, the biggest driver of where the party goes from a governmental policy standpoint. And that drives many of my colleagues crazy. But the fact is, she has tapped into the base of support within the Democratic Party. And you see the juxtaposition between her and Chuck Schumer. I'm writing a strongly worded letter. Oh, sit the fuck down, Chuck. It's time.
Yep. I mean, he's right? He's right. I don't think that AOC is the leader of the party currently. I'm not sure. I think it's something that we may not even know yet. But again, he brings up a really good point. Okay. All right. So I want to get back to this exercise that, this breakdown of autocracy and how it has now infiltrated the history of mis and disinformation and why it's continued to be supported today. So the MAGA movement, this is all related. So we've broken down. I've attempted to. Hopefully, you guys are still engaged. I appreciate y'all for being here and hanging in there with me. We've broken down how MAGA is then built on a series of lies. And it is lies and disbeliefs, right? We've got all the evidence on our side. We can disprove any claim that they make. We can push back against their conspiracy theories. We can confront them with the evidence. We can explain to them why the Trump economic policies in the first administration didn't work for the majority of Americans. And here we are once again. We're at that. So they live in a series of disbeliefs. Well, that's not unlike any previous autocratic regime and how they do the same thing to attempt to manipulate their followers. MAGA movement in the United States has authoritarian connections from the 20th and 21st centuries, including Nazi Germany, fascist Italy, post-Soviet Russia, Hungary under Viktor Orban, Brazil under Bolsonaro, and Turkey under Erdogan. The comparison highlights shared strategies, psychological mechanisms, and political tactics while acknowledging key differences in context and scale. Cult of personality. Let's start with that one. MAGA, Trump portrays him as, he is portrayed as infallible and the persecuted savior figure. Historical parallels. Schmittler, messianic, nationalist, racial destiny. Mussolini, charismatic nationalism, restoration of past glory. Putin, defender of traditional values and Russian power. Stop me when you don't think I'm making an accurate comparison here. Orban, framed as a guardian of Christian Europe and national sovereignty. Bolsonaro, Brazil, self-styled outsider and anti-establishment savior. And Erdogan, Turkey, cast himself as the protector of Islamic values and Turkish greatness. Make Turkey great again. MAGA relies on, this is disinformation and propaganda. MAGA relies on social media, Fox, and to discredit fact-based journalism, labeled as fake news. Historical parallels. Nazi Germany, state-controlled press and radio, propaganda ministry. Soviet Union, censorship, information monopolization. Post-Soviet, the Putin era of Russia, hybrid war on truth through both state and troll propaganda. Again, massive spreaders of mis and disinformation. Hungary under Orban, party controls most media, discredits independent journalists. Bolsonaro, spreading C-19 misinformation and attack the press via Twitter. Turkey, Erdogan jails journalists, shuts down dissenting outlets, and leverages media loyalty. Again, stop me if I'm making a stretch here. The demonization of opponents. MAGA portrays Democrats, immigrants, the press, and minorities as existential threats. Okay? Historical parallels. Nazi Germany, Jews, communists, LGBTQIA, and liberals targeted. Fascist Italy, socialists and intellectuals suppressed. Post-Soviet Russia, Western agents and dissenters painted as enemies of the state. Hungary, Orban vilifies George Soros and migrants as cultural threats. Brazil, Bolsonaro targets indigenous people, LGBTQ+, and environmentalists. Erdogan accuses critics of terrorism and foreign collusion. Okay, again, stop me if any of this is a stretch. Attack on democratic institutions. MAGA undermines elections, courts, and peaceful transfers of power. For example, J6. Historical parallels. The Nazis dismantled the Weimar institution, the Weimar Constitution, the Weimar Republic in Germany, pre-Nazism, tore it down, ripped it up, started over. Mussolini eroded parliament and press freedoms. Putin centralized power and criminalized opposition, still doing it to this day. Orban in Hungary restructured the courts, eliminated checks on executive power. Brazil, Bolsonaro challenged election results and encouraged military support. Posse Comitatus Insurrection Act. Yeah. Erdogan in Turkey purged the judiciary and the military after a failed coup attempt. Interesting. Use of violence and intimidation. MAGA encourages the encouragement of vigilante justice, threats to officials. There's now reporting that the recruitment of ICE agents has been the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, the 3%ers, masked, similar profiles. So we know that there's been this big push to hire more ICE agents. There's also executive orders to be able to militarize and or legalize, third parties, law enforcement, for example. Sound familiar? Yeah, I should. Historical parallels. Again, the encouragement of vigilante justice. Historical parallels. The SA and SS in Nazi Germany used to terrorize. Black shirts in Italy engage in public beatings and voter suppression. Russia uses state security and proxies for intimidation and assassination. Hungary, police and vigilantes used to intimidate migrants and protesters. In Brazil, Bolsonaro's rhetoric emboldened militias and police brutality. And in Turkey, Erdogan cracks down on protests with violence and mass arrests. Are you getting angry? You should be getting fucking angry. I hope so. And then number 6, manufacturing grievance and victimhood. MAGA frames white Christians, rural voters, men, and Trump himself as victims of the liberal elites. Yahtzees blamed humiliation. Yahtzees blamed national humiliation on the Treaty of Versailles. So I'll take a pivot here for briefly. The Treaty of Versailles was very specific as to what the reforming of the German government was, what could and couldn't do. Because of isolationist and protectionist policies post-Depression and post-World War I America, we, who were one of the signers of the Treaty of Versailles, ignored it and allowed Schmittler to gain power, to violate the treaty at every turn, and there was no checks and balances. Okay? That's where that comes from. Italian fascists invoked betrayal by globalist powers post-World War I. Putin blames Western interference for Russia's decline. Orban claims Brussels and globalists are undermining Hungary. Bolsonaro alleges globalists and socialists are sabotaging Brazil. And Erdogan blames foreign plots and internal traitors for Turkey's instability. Key differences, scale and structure. MAGA has not yet established a one-party state or eliminated legal opposition entirely. Checks and balances. U.S. institutions, civil society, and media remain imperfect, resilient so far. Use of religion. MAGA integrates Christian nationalism more overtly than 20th century European fascists, and then the global context. Unlike historical regimes, MAGA operates in a digital, globalized information age. Easier to spread their rhetoric. Conclusion. While the MAGA movement is not identical to historic authoritarian regimes. Remember, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. It exhibits clear similarities in tactics, propaganda, cult leadership, and disdain for democratic norms. Comparisons with Hungary, Brazil, and Turkey reveal how modern autocracies evolve within democratic frameworks. Vigilance and active civic engagement are essential to prevent the further continued erosion of U.S. democracy, because we're already there. So yeah, more to come. We'll talk about that again in just a minute. Shane, how are you today?
Pretty good. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing fine, thanks. What's on your mind?
So, the idea of globalism being the destructing force behind the movement of conservatism, even though we live in a world that is essentially based on globalist trade and intercourse. And when I say intercourse, I don't.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yep.
So,
It's a necessity. It's a necessity these days, right?
Yeah, but what the American MAGA doesn't understand is America created that globalist economy after World War II.
Correct.
We are the creators of globalism. And if you don't like the fact that we created globalism, you need to go back to history and learn why we are a globalist world.
Yeah, so just said this in the chat, on purpose. We did it on purpose, and we knew that. And at the time, it was the right thing to do. And quite frankly, it's still the right thing to do.
I don't think they understand that the globalist economy allows small manufacturers in America. Like, there's a wonderful company I like to use as an example. It's called Blitzkrieg Inc. It's a trophy truck manufacturing company. They are the top tier manufacturing company for these types of trucks, like Baja 1000 trucks in the world.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Their swing arms here in the United States cost you $1,500 a set. In Europe, it's 3 times that, because he has to go through all the stipulations of, making it conscious for them, shipping it, all that type of stuff. That allows that small dude in Orange County who runs that shop to make a ton of money in other countries through a globalist economy. And America created that, and you isolationists in the comments are forgetting that if you want other countries to buy American goods so that you can profit, you need to stop being isolationists. Yeah. Because nobody wants to buy your shit if you're the mean kid in the yard.
True. It's true.
I'm trying to be a lot. I was going to say, Steve, I'm trying to be nicer lately. I'm trying to actually have conversations.
I got you, man. So you bring up a really, really good point, right? Post World War II, there was already this push or the recognition that there needs to be a much more global approach to economics for the benefit of our country as well. So think about what happened post World War II. It was the golden age, so to speak, of the American middle class. We developed suburbs, we developed public schools, interstate highway systems, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So MAGA thinks about that, but we did that as we were growing towards globalism and a globally connected economy. Shipping routes were expanded. Manufacturing, we were supporting manufacturing in other countries to benefit the American consumer. So to your point, small businesses are the ones that are following the America First model. Small businesses are hiring American workers, developing products here, and then shipping them to places like you just said, the swing arms for trucks, for example. It's a great model. The ones that are violating the rules are the large corporations, are the Fortune 100 companies, the Fortune 1000 companies. By the way, those same companies are the ones that are getting massive tax breaks in America. And what are they doing? They're still sending their jobs overseas. They're still ripping off the American taxpayer. They're still in a position to acquire wealth when the stock market crashes. So it's small businesses that are being harmed by Trump tax cuts and rhetoric, and yet they're the ones that are truly America first. Make it make sense.
I sit here and I laugh because I don't think many people know, or even if you know, but I'm a union journeyman welder. I manufacture corrugated processing machines. For people who don't know what that is, I make the machines that make cardboard boxes. So every time there is an Amazon distribution center built anywhere on the globe, me, my company, or one of the other 7 that exist builds the machines. Nice. Since Trump took office, we have had 9 overseas contracts put on hold or canceled. Now, I don't think you understand how big of a manufacturing process that is to develop an entire line of machines from start to finish that take raw rolled corrugated and turn it into multiple sizes of cardboard boxes. That's months of work and overtime. Gone. Thank you, MAGA. You took my overtime away. You took my extra PTO away that I earn on my overtime. You took away contracts from my company. You took away my profit share check because they had to purchase overseas materials that, like, bearing blocks, controllers, that type of stuff. You guys, my union brothers that voted alongside me, decided that Trump was going to be the best idea. And now that we're tanked, they are utterly, utterly besides themselves And all they can do is just nod and smile and walk away because they can't justify what's happening to them or our company. And that's all because of MAGA. And that's because of your guys' isolationism. You're directly hurting the people that you said you supported the most. The union, blue-collar worker, you decimated us. You destroyed the blue-collar working class and turned us into a working minion with low wages. So thank you, MAGA. Thank you so much. Thanks, Steve, for letting me up here.
Shane, I appreciate you, buddy. Good talk to you again. Come back soon. Be well. He's right? I mean, he's right. That's just that's the world that we live in now. So, and then that leads into where I want to go now with, the tax cut. So, this is what Trump is saying on Live Social about it. And we'll get into the specifics in just a moment because we have the data. We have, again, remember how we're talking about breaking the tie? If one person says one thing about something and someone else says the opposite, how do you break the tie? You do it with the fucking truth. You do it with facts because they do still matter, friends. They really do still matter, right? Okay, this is what he had to say about it.
Republicans must unite, all caps, behind the one big, beautiful bill, in all caps. Not only does it cut taxes for all Americans, we'll talk about that in a second, but it will kick millions of illegal aliens off of Medicaid to protect it for those who are the ones in real need. The country will suffer greatly without this legislation. With their taxes going up 65%, it will be blamed on the Democrats. But that doesn't help our voters. We don't need grandstanders in the Republican Party. Stop talking and get it done. It is time to fix the mess that Biden and the Democrats gave us. Thank you all for your attention to this matter.
Okay. So I've been able to kind of digest all of it. I've not read everything, but I've read sort of the highlights and I've read some of the details. So the first thing that I think we should talk about is the extension of the TCJA, which was the Trump tax cuts from the first administration. Now, I've told you guys this before. I know you know this because you are, again, the smartest chat on TikTok. Give yourselves a pat on the back because you are. Well, let's do this. This is for you guys. Hold on. Yes, it's for you. Smartest chat on TikTok. Yes, you are. Mm-hmm. It's true. It's very, very true. And I firmly believe this. Tax policy is generally 8 to 10 years, right? Which it's by design, right? When it was written that way, so that only one administration could then have influence over a tax bill. But because he lost in 2020, he now has the ability to either enact something new or a continuation of the old. That's where we are. So the TCJA is going to continue. Okay, so let's kind of go through some of the highlights. And I want to sort of break this down. I've read it enough to be able to make some observations. And these are some of the highlights. Tips and overtime. So it does eliminate federal tax on tips and overtime, but it's a very complicated process. And by the way, it's only temporary. It's from 2025 through 2028. So again, the TCJA, the tax cuts for the richest, is permanent, much like it was the first time. But tax on tips and overtime is in there. The concern that a lot of people have had, they brought up, is that it gives corporations the ability to manipulate how their employees are paid. So if you are paid a certain amount of money in your tips, and there's a possibility that changes may be made to how it's reported, thus your tax on every dollar, not just your tips. So it's not all this big old fancy thing about taxes on tips. It's not permanent, it's temporary, and there's lots of nuances to it. Again, the promise was no tax on Social Security. That's not in there. What is in there is a senior deduction. Okay, it includes a $4,000 deduction for individuals aged 65 and older with incomes of up to $75,000, and then $150,000 for joint filers. But again, it's temporary. Expires the end of 2028. Okay, child tax credit. It increases the tax credit from $2,000 to $2,500. Tax years 25 through 28. It goes back to $2,000 again after 2028. Pass-through business raises the deduction for qualified business income from 20 to 23% for pass-through entities. Again, reverts back to what it was at the end of 2028. MAGA accounts. Remember this one? Establishes federally funded savings accounts with $1,000 deposits for children born between the years 2025 and 2028. Not, again, yeah, you're right on the tax for tips, not itemized. And then that's only for a temporary period. Somebody called this out. You don't get the standard deduction if if you don't itemize, it won't do anything. Exactly. Thank you for saying that. If you don't itemize if you don't take the standard deduction, or if you do take the standard deduction and you don't itemize, then you don't get the benefit of no taxes on tips or overtime. Right? And don't forget, they want to do away with overtime in general and only expect a 40-hour work week with 38 hours of pay. So it's not what it cracks up to be. But I do want to make it very clear, because a lot of people are still saying it's not in the bill. It is, but it's not how it was sold to us. $1 billion tax breaks on gun silencers, which I thought was interesting. Allocates $800 million in cuts for corporations in the Virgin Islands. Don't understand that one. And then allows health savings accounts to cover gym memberships, costing a total of $10 billion. Okay, those are just chicken feed. All right, these are the cuts. This is the part that I think is really that we need to discuss. Medicaid imposes a stricter work requirement and shifts costs to states, potentially leading to 9 million people losing coverage. All right, so the work requirement debate has been debated for a very long time, but you're now putting it in the hands of the states, so federal protections go away, which ultimately will lead to people losing their coverage. Okay? SNAP transfers more financial responsibility to states and enforces expanded work requirements, once again, putting it in the hands of the states, which means children will starve. Okay? I'm not hyperbolic. I'm not fear-mongering. That is just the fucking reality. Student loans overhauls repayment plans and eliminates President Biden's student loan forgiveness program, putting people in bankruptcy. Again, part of the deal was your student loan debt would not go to your credit. And now it will again. And you're going to have to pay the money back. And then Planned Parenthood proposes defunding the organization. Period. Okay? It's not going to pass the Senate. We'll get to that in a second. Defense and border security. Missile defense allocates $25 billion for a new missile defense system dubbed the Golden Dome, similar to what they have in Israel. Okay? And then border wall enforcement provides $47 billion in addition to previous expenses to expand the border wall, increase deportations, and hire additional enforcement personnel. So those last two categories. So that's between missile defense, a $1 trillion defense budget, and an additional $47 billion for border security. That's what they want. Remember, Joe Biden said, don't tell me what your values are. Show me your budget. We're going to cut Medicaid, kick 9 million people off of Medicaid. Again, this is not my opinion. This is in the fucking bill. We're going to cut Medicaid, kick people off of it. We're going to eliminate expenses. We're going to eliminate federal protections for SNAP benefits. We're going to force people to pay back their student loans, and we're going to defund Planned Parenthood. Don't tell me what your values are. Show me your budget. We're going to spend $1 trillion plus on defense and homeland security, and we're going to cut expenses for public health. We're going to allow taxpayers to support renovations for a new jet, but we're going to defund public education. We're going to allow corporations to get a bigger tax break, and yet we are going to make sure that children don't have access to food. Food. Additional provisions in this budget. AI regulation imposes a 10-year federal preemption on state AI laws, potentially conflicting with legislative rules requiring fiscal relevance. University endowments introduces higher taxes on large university endowments or cutting funding altogether. And then IRS direct file program terminates the IRS direct filing tax program. Why the fuck would you want to do that? The IRS, the money that was invested by make it make sense. The money that was invested by the Biden administration to hire more IRS employees, you know what that did? That brought in billions of dollars of revenue from tax cheats. And who are those tax cheats? 3 guesses. So why would you want to make it harder for taxpayers and filers to pay their taxes? Maybe so that you can avoid people, so that you can hide people who are tax cheats? I don't know. Okay. One of the biggest elements of Republican policies is they want to tell the American consumer that we are going to cut spending. We are going to be fiscally responsible. Remember, I told you this yesterday. If you're walking around in your moderate bubble thinking that you're fiscally conservative and socially liberal, no, you're not. You can't be both. You cannot be fiscally conservative and socially liberal. Because what happens when you are is you end up saying, well, maybe we shouldn't be spending this much money on this particular program. So stop with that. You can around your house, sure, but you can't be from a domestic perspective. Okay. Here's the big thing. National debt analysts estimate additional $5.7 trillion added to the debt over the next decade. The promise was they're going to reduce the debt. Nope. Critics argue the bill disproportionately benefits the wealthy once again, with those earning over $1 million annually receiving an average tax cut of $81,000 compared to $263 for individuals earning under $50,000. It's the percentage game, 4 to 6% compared to 1%. Nice. And the inclusion of numerous targeted tax breaks has been criticized for adding complexity when the goal was simplification. The one big beautiful bill represents a significant shift in U.S. tax and spending policy with far-reaching implications for various sectors and income groups. As the bill progresses through Congress, it is expected to undergo further scrutiny and potential amendments. It's not going to pass in the Senate. Josh Hawley's come out against, Rand Paul's come out against it. It's not going to pass in the Senate. So two things are going to happen here, right? Two things are going to happen. One, the Senate is going to say no. Trump's going to throw a hissy fit, and then they're going to push the bill back to the House, and the House is going to have to renegotiate for two reasons. One, they haven't cut spending enough, right? Or they're going to have to realize that cutting Medicaid, because again, it's in there, you're going to talk about making change. You're going to use flowery language like, oh, work requirements. It's going to kick 9 million people off of health insurance. Okay, it's just that there's the math. Let's stop pulling punches in here and trying to dodge and weave around the issue. So Trump's not going to sign it in its current iteration because in his mind they haven't cut spending enough. Again, a $5.5 trillion hit to the deficit. Remember how we started the show today with the pseudo economic advisors and the fake crypto bros who want to say, well, we've got to start paying down our debt. Got to start paying the interest of $1 trillion alone. Here we are. Let's just tack on another $5.7 trillion. There's nothing in here about job creation. There's nothing in here to support, again, the middle class. There's nothing in here to support small businesses. Do you guys remember during one of Kamala Harris's, I think it was actually during the DNC convention, Bill Clinton went on the record. He was one of the keynote speakers, and he talked about how Democrats since Reagan, since 1989, have created 50 million jobs, and Republicans have created 1 million. I'm like, wait a minute, what is that? I fact checked that. That's a true statement. They talk about the end of the Cold War, like 1989. So we have examples of Democratic tax policy, Democrat innovation, Democrat legislation to impact the middle class, and we've seen what that has done. So job growth has been notably greater under Democrats going back to the 1980s. Again, 50 million jobs, again, since that time, 1989 to today. It's 35 years, roughly. Democratic presidents held the office 20 of those 35 years. Okay, 20 of those 35 years. So logic would tell you that it's Democratic-led legislation, Democratic-led initiatives that have created this. We know it. We've got data. 50 million jobs created under Democratic administrations, 1 million under Republicans. So they're the myth, again, we started our show today talking about the lies that MAGA has been sold. MAGA has been sold a boatload of lies that they are the job creators. They're not. Corporations are not and have never been the job creators. We did this exercise last week when we talked about small businesses. 99.9% of all businesses in America are considered small by the SBA, the Small Business Association. That's less than 500 employees. Okay? 99.9% of all businesses in our country fall into that category. They create half the jobs, if not over half. And yet, they're doing the right things. They are employing Americans. They are in manufacturing here for the most part. They are integral parts of communities. They are innovators. They are entrepreneurs. They are patenting their products. They're expanding. They're doing everything asked for. Everything asked for. Corporations are getting the benefits of government welfare or corporate welfare on the taxpayer dollar, and they're shipping their jobs overseas, and we reward them for that. We don't reward small businesses. Remember, there's nothing in this tax program about supporting small businesses. Kamala Harris had a $50,000 tax credit for small businesses. And the argument from the right is like, well, I had to pay it back right away. No, you had to pay it back within a year after you turning a profit. A year after you turn a profit, which gives companies time to grow. That's significant to start a small business, right? So the math is the math. I don't know what to tell you. Bureau of Labor stats tell us this shit, okay? Unemployment rate is always lower at the end of Democratic presidencies and higher at the end of Republican ones. The economy grows more under Democrats than it does under Republicans. Every single cycle. Grew 31% under Reagan, 8% under Bush, 34% under Clinton, 15% under Bush W, 19% under Obama, 9% under Trump, 11% under Biden. Again, we have the data. Manufacturing jobs always do better under Democrats. We lost jobs under Reagan. We lost jobs, manufacturing jobs under H.W. Bush. We added jobs under Clinton. We lost jobs under W. Bush. We added jobs under Obama. We lost jobs under Trump, and we gained jobs under Biden. We've got the data. We have the information from the Bureau of Labor. We have it. Manufacturing investments have surged to the point where there has never been a time in American domestic history where manufacturing investments were higher than they were under the Biden administration. Every single time we have Democrats in charge, the economy does better. The Biden-Harris administration had record small business growth. 18,951,000 applications for small businesses under the Biden-Harris administration. It's 10%, to almost 20% more than under the Trump administration. But why is that? Because they created incentive programs for people who want to go into small business, to go into business for themselves. Right? It's the data. President Trump added significantly more to the national debt, especially non-pandemic related spending. We know that. Twice as much. If you remove COVID spending from both, he still added more to the debt. And here we are again, another $5.7 trillion added to the debt. And what do we get for it? What do we get? What do we get? You're right, Toodle. We get nothing. The middle class gets nothing. I'm going to break down the wealth disparity for you here because I think this is a really telling tale. Do I have that? This is gonna make you angry, but this speaks to exactly what we're just talking about. Okay. Currently, it's estimated that there's around $164 trillion total wealth in America. Okay? The top 1%, which represents 3.3 million people, has $50 trillion. Again, the number is 164, okay? The top 1%, or roughly 3.3 million people, has $50 trillion worth of wealth. The next 9%, which represents 30 million people, has $60 trillion in total wealth. Okay? So between the top 10% has 110 trillion of the 164 trillion in our country. The next 40%, which represents 133 million people, has $50 trillion. So the top 50% has 160 of the $164 trillion in total wealth, which means the bottom 50%, 175 million of us, has $4 trillion combined. That's staggering enough. In 1980, okay, we had a combined wealth total of roughly $30 trillion. Okay? In 2025, it's now 164 trillion. So we've increased our total overall wealth by $134 trillion since 1980. Okay? The bottom 50% at that time, but when the total wealth was 30 trillion, the bottom 50% at that time had $2 trillion in wealth. So 45 years later, we've only gained $2 trillion in wealth, while the top has gained $134 trillion in wealth. Trickle-down economics, friends, doesn't work. Don't tell me what your values are. Show me your budget. Don't tell me what you care about. Show me what you're going to do with taxpayer dollars. Conservatives or progressives? You either want to move society forward, or you want to keep things the way they are, or go backwards in time. You know what I want? I want to overfund public education. I want a tax code that punishes tax cheats. And it's not just about your salaries, it's about your assets. We need to be going after the wealthy assets because they can squirrel shit away. The Twitter purchase by Elon is a perfect example. He didn't use cash. He just borrowed money against his assets, right? Borrowed money against his assets, right? To buy. At the end of the day, we've said this before, human rights are boring to put on a bumper sticker. I support human rights. It's boring. But how can we sit here and say, even members of MAGA, how can they, for years, we spend too much money. We spend too much money. We got to go after the debt. And now what are they going to do? Now that they've seen the data, now that we've seen the fact that we're going to be adding $5.7 trillion more to the debt that they care so much about, taxpayer dollars are going to be spending $1 billion plus to refurbish a jet that was given to just one person, the twice impeached, 4-time indicted, such abusing, fraudulent, convicted felon, who's going to take it with him when he leaves, which means more taxpayer dollars are going to have to continue to be spent on the replacement for Air Force One. Meanwhile, the countries that he went and visited on this trip have been bribing American elected officials for decades. In particular, the Trump family, the Trump crime family. Can we take that back? It's the Trump crime family. Let's call it what it is. Make it make sense, please. I'm tired. I am tired of having to explain this shit. But it's important. Why we do it? Please consider supporting the channel. I appreciate you guys. There's no more mystery behind it, right? There's no more mystery. There's no more mystery. This is the budget. We have it. Okay? And again, I want it to be clear that no tax on tips is referenced, but there's lots of, if you don't take the standard deduction, you itemize, you lose your benefit, or vice versa. If you itemize, you lose the benefit, right? So again, we have what we have. They are going to be cutting Medicare, Medicaid. Millions of people are going to lose their insurance, their health coverage. Millions of people. Children will go hungry. Cutting SNAP benefits that's already underfunded now. Children in our country, you pro-life fucking hypocrites, are gonna starve, are not gonna have money, and you're gonna be okay with that. And your prices are gonna go up. Your prices are gonna go up. Remember this? Hold on. Good time to play this. Remember this?
I think the good parts are the Trump economy and the bad parts are the Biden economy.
Right? You're going to blame, who are you going to blame? You're going to blame Biden for this budget? Are you really going to attempt to do that? Are you going to blame Biden now for this? Are you going to blame Biden for Walmart's prices going up? Even after the CFO, the CEO of Walmart tells you that because of the tariffs, the prices are going to go up? Who the fuck are you going to blame? Other than yourself. You people are fucking evil. You're evil. You, especially you white men, you weak, mediocre, I peaked in middle school white men. You're fucking cowards. You are hypocritical fucking cowards. You never amounted to anything in your life and you never will. And you want to blame everything else on women. You want to blame the LGBTQIA community. You want to blame immigrants. You want to blame brown-skinned people, black-skinned people. You want to blame everybody for your own failings. You're pathetic. Pathetic. You're going to sit there and cheer why children are going to go hungry. Your pro-life bullshit. You're going to sit there and cheer while Meemaw and Peepaw are kicked off their insurance. And you're going to fucking cheer for that. And you're going to find somebody to blame, but you're a mediocre bullshit white man self. The fuck? Okay, I need to calm down now. Because my girlfriend's here. Hi.
I was just hopping up to tell you to take a deep breath because you don't seem fucking zen.
Good point.
I actually popped up because, because I love you. And it's always
Back
nice to talk to you. B, it's the freaking weekend.
It is. I forgot. Hold on. Somebody just dissed on me. Hold on a second. Hold on. Sorry. There you go.
So I don't know how you're going to do. Are you going to record that on your phone and play it at the airport when I come to pick you up?
That's a really good point. I don't know. Well, I'm arriving. No, because I'm arriving. So I'm going to need my own.
So I'm going to have a theme tune for you.
Correct.
Oh, geez.
That's right.
Inbox.
Let's go. Let's go get on that.
I think born in the USA or maybe proud to be an American.
Oh yeah, that's totally the one. I'm going to walk into Heathrow with proud to be an American playing. Yeah, that's going to go over real well. They'll be like, get the fuck out of here.
I'll tell you what, I could even bring speakers and play it loud. And then point to you and say, this is for him.
I'll wear my I'll wear my baseball hat backwards. I'll wear loose fitting cargo shorts. I'll wear an American flag T-shirt, and I'll be sure to have a fanny pack on. I will fit right in. I'll be totally fine. I will not stand out at all.
If you could wear a Make America Great Again hat, that would just add to the effect.
I think all my luxurious hair might fall out.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, man. I'm sorry, buddy.
The temptation to introduce you to everyone as someone who really likes Donald Trump is overwhelming. But the one thing that I was going to say was Hector said in the comments that he really liked your shirt. So I just wanted to point out to everybody that shirt, the I Am Fucking Zen shirt, is available from the FactsStillMatter store. I think it's the bestseller, isn't it?
It is. We even have a mug.
And there's a mug as well. Mm-hmm. So for work,
Oh, that's the call. Who said that? Who said that? Embarrassed American, wear some jorts. I'm totally going to wear jorts. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show up at the airport, Heathrow, with Crocs and black socks and jorts with no belt and a poor fitting polo shirt. That's going to scream American.
And you know what I'm going to do?
Walk away?
Drive by and pretend I haven't seen you.
Yep. That's my plan.
No,
Got it covered.
That's not the guy that's supposed to be coming to sue me. Nope.
Totally. Kira's got it. So absolutely. Sandals. I could wear like Birkenstocks, like Jesus sandals with white socks. Exactly. Mm-hmm. I'm down. I got it covered.
For the person who asked what jorts are, a jort is a jean short.
Not to be confused with cutoff jean shorts that I used to wear to every concert when I was a kid. These would be actually hemmed jorts. You know what? And the next level of the jort would be pleated. So pleated jorts, Crocs with socks, a poor fitting polo, baseball cap backwards, and a fanny pack. I got it covered.
Hang on. Sorry, my colleague is just driving out of the car park next to me. Bye, Tamara. Have a lovely weekend. When you say pleated, do you mean pleats in the like at the waistband of the jean, or do you mean a pleated leg? Because that would be a whole look.
No. Just the pleated, at the belt line.
Yeah, that's what I thought you meant. I was like, is there some kind of leg pleated jean going on in the US that I'm unaware of?
No.
Okay. I'll tell you
I have a better outfit for you.
Hang on, everybody. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. I have to play this first. Hold on. Everybody stand by.
I was looking for a quarterback.
That's the commercial. Okay, hold on. Hang on. Everybody stand by. Worth it. We can all thank Sam for this.
I'm in my jorts. I'm in my George shorts. I'm in my jorts. Jean shorts. That means jorts. My name's Carl, and I wear jorts. I like all sorts of racket sports. Jorts. I got my George shorts on the court.
Okay. Sorry, Opie. Welcome. Hello, friend. How are you? Save me.
So I think because we are Gen X, and Gen X particularly grew up in the 70s, I would like you to consider the following accoutrement for your outfit. Okay. 1, a knitted Budweiser tin can bucket hat.
Whoa. See, that might be a little... See, that you could...
Or maybe PBR, right? Because it's hey, I'm a hipster, but also I'm proud to be an American.
Or what I could do instead is I could find myself some PBR suspenders and wear those with my pleated jorts.
Okay, now allow me to get to the shirt.
Erica's like throwing up in her mouth as her.
I don't know what PBR is, so this means nothing to me.
Pabst Blue Ribbon beer.
It's basically water that smells like beer in a can.
But it's the best when you're camping.
Nobody here would know what that was. That would be wasted.
You should have a off brown 1970s Trans Am shirt.
Oh, I think like sleeveless, cut off.
Yes, a muscle shirt.
Yep.
That's actually purposefully cuffed and hemmed at the shoulder.
Yep, that would work.
Okay. Now, the pants. This is where I need you to embrace the 70s.
Okay.
I need you to find a pair of bootcut pants, but that have had a crease ironed in them so often, because the crease wasn't there on purpose, but they were ironed with a crease that there's a white line running down the front of the pant because the crease is ever present.
Like you could shave with it. It's so
you could.
So
as a matter of fact, your pants stand at attention when you walk in the room.
Yep.
Because they can't be folded. And then I need you to be in a pair of engineer boots.
Okay.
Okay. Now for the belt, right? The belt has got to be something special, right? Because what you need is
like a
cowboy belt, right? That has the weave on the outside, like two-tone brown, right? The middle of the belt is one color, but then there's a weave of the leather of the dark brown, and that all comes together with a big, huge belt buckle with a mark and eagle on it.
See, I don't think so. I think it's more like the web belt.
Oh, dude, from
the 80s. With just the loop. Exactly. With just the loop. And then
they're going to loop it around and let it dangle.
Correct.
To show the size of your member. For your member measurement.
I have further accoutrement. You could borrow Obi's chaps and shove them
I have chaps. I have chaps.
You have chaps?
I do.
Yeah, bring those.
They're
bring
assless.
Those. Yeah, bring those. I don't know how many more times I have to say it. Bring them.
I have no ass, so when I say they're assless, it's irrelevant.
They have an ass, but you don't, is what you're saying.
Correct. Well, no, they don't. Yeah.
Hey now.
Exactly. So here's the thing. We joke about this shit, but I would have no problem, rocking that shit out and just fucking owning it. I mean, I won't do it when I show up to meet you for the first time in person, but I would have no issues wearing that. Like I could probably assemble most of that. Mine is the jorts. Although my oldest son loves to dress that way, so I'm sure he's probably got a pair of jorts sitting around somewhere. I would have no problem walking down, Main Street.
I have jorts. Like, I own jorts. Shall I show up at the airport in mine?
You can do whatever you want. It's your country.
Well, we can all do whatever we want, because guess what? We still have rights when we're in other people's countries. Isn't it weird?
It is so weird. It is so weird. Welcome to your weekend and into your happy Friday evening, Erica, by the way.
Thank you. I was going to say something else, and then oh no, I said about the shirt. That was all I was going to say, really. I need to drive home now, though, because Buzz has a vet's appointment.
Okay. Well, thank you for swinging by.
Have his shot. That's okay. I will listen to you on the way home.
Okay.
There's an aeroplane going over.
Look, Mom, there's an aeroplane in the sky.
Look, Daddy.
My mum's not here. Why would I tell my mum?
It's from Pink Floyd. You missed it right over your head. Yeah. Love you. Talk to you later.
Love you too. Bye.
Okay, bye. So listen, I know she's listening, but how great would it be if I actually showed up like that? Or, you know what's even better? I'll wear that when I go meet her parents.
Bro.
Erica already gave her parents a heads up that my fingernails might be painted, so we'll see how that goes, but whatever.
Okay.
It's okay. I can hold my own. No problem. I can hold my own.
Yes. You can.
What's on your mind today, sir? Aside from that. Spicy Fact showed up a little bit.
Yeah, I was kind of enjoying it. And I keep going back to these I guess we're going to call them journalists, but I don't know. I think we need to come up with a new title. Because they certainly don't adhere to the spirit of journalism, right? There's no punchback, right? What are they afraid of? Not being invited back? It's not a cool kids club. It's not a secret tree house, right?
What are you talking about in particular? I'm confused.
Like when Trump goes, ABC News, you're doing terrible.
Oh, gotcha.
How about as a journalist, you say, shareholders are not my primary concern. Reporting the news is.
How what a novel concept that would be.
Or how about go to Speaker Johnson and say, hey, are you aware that two things can be true at the same time? Because you know he's going to say yes. Okay, as a follow-up, which of these two things is true? The GOP has lied about Biden and the supposed crimes that you kept saying existed, but none were presented, or that the Trump family still continues to enrich itself and doesn't report like the Biden family did. By the way, when they publicly let it be known that they had signed a $15 million book deal.
Yeah.
That's journalism, right?
Exactly.
Asking a softball question, that's high school newspaper. Right.
You're right. I mean, I think in this and the reason I went through the budget. I mean, again, just the highlights. I mean, these are the things that I think are the most common talking points as to what's in it. It's more about what's not in it, quite frankly. But if the argument was they were going to cut spending, right? Because we don't want to carry that interest on their debt, which is over $1 trillion. I get it. And listen, to be objective, we do increase the debt limit. That is something that happens routinely. Sure. None of us like it, but it's something that happens routinely. It's not just the Republicans doing it. It's not just the Democrats doing it. It's something we have to do because you have to pay for things that you've already paid for, basically, right? So it's a perpetuation. But the argument that for somehow, some way, goes back to the conversation we had earlier about the influence of media, has been able to convince 77 million people that that's not going to happen under Republicans. We're going to be responsible. Come on. No, you're not. We've got 50 fucking years now of Republican policies that speak to how the economy performs better under Democrats. It just does. It's not opinion. It is just the stock market, job creation, employment, you name it, does better. 50 million jobs created with Democrats compared to 1 million with Republicans. You tell me, is that just hyperbole? Am I just up here spewing nonsense? Then fact check me on it, but I'm not. So
right. And I think too, when they talk about Air Force One, quit talking about the obvious. Go back. We talked about this yesterday briefly. Go back and say, do you regret when you stopped funding of Air Force One that therefore caused the delays? That's the question. Honestly, can I just be honest for a second?
Please. When have you not been?
I know. I'm sorry. I really don't give a shit if he keeps the jet. I don't. Why? It doesn't impact my life. He is a criminal and a dishonest human being. I'm okay in knowing that that's who he is. So if he continues down that path, I'm going to be okay with it, right? Because it's none of my business whether or not he gets to keep the jet. He is going to enrich himself whether we want to have that done or not, because his own party is never going to stand against him. Sure. Rail against it all you want. I'm fine with that, but it's not going to change. Let's hold him to task for the things he's actually done.
Right. Somebody called you out saying that taxpayer dollars does impact your life. I get what you're saying. A big picture.
It does. Well, I'm going to argue that point. It doesn't.
It does because it affects.
Hold on now.
Hold on. Let me make my point. Hang on a second. Let me make my point. Because we're talking about the collective, as those of us on the left vote for the greater good. So when tax dollars are not going to support the things that we care about, then that does affect our life indirectly, but it does affect our lives. That's my point.
You weren't going to get those things anyway under this administration with the GOP holding the House and 50% of the Senate. You weren't going to get it.
That's fair. That's fair.
So
That's fair.
if we're going to do this honestly and logically and with maths, you weren't going to get it anyway. Their whole intent for 40 years has been hell-bent on taking from you. So stop that narrative, because that's all it is. The math shows that they're cutting anyway, right? And sure, the military has never been able to pass an audit. Again, that hasn't changed in 40 years either. My point is that irrespective of whether or not he keeps the jet, that's not the issue. The issue isn't even that he took a bribe for a jet. The issue is that he stopped an American company from manufacturing a jet. And I don't really care what you feel about Boeing, but a lot of people lost jobs, right? So if we're going to be for the worker, let's go back to where the problem started. Why is it that your party continues to be so anti-labor while pushing America first? That's a question, right?
Fair question.
Why is it that you took the funding away from Boeing for causing the delay and then helping you facilitate the gifting of a jet? Also, here's another question. Why has that jet been in the United States for so long? When did you first discuss taking possession of the jet?
It's a good point. It was in Texas for a while, right? I think it was down there for a while.
Months.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this is what I'm saying. Like, let's instead of fighting the obvious, let's fight the underlying issue. Let's start asking politicians, right? And you know how I feel about pro-labor movements, right? Why are you still so anti-labor? Why are you still so anti-union? How does that equal America first? If you want
anti-small business,
right? Let's start calling them out on the problems that they've been getting away for 40 years because no one holds their feet to the fire. You've got one guy in the Senate for the last 40 years, one guy waving a flag, trying to get people's attention, right? And that was Bernie. One guy, 40 years, right? Now, he tried and continues to try, but again, it's kind of like yelling into the wind, right? Like, it's good. I'm glad he's still doing it, but Chuck Schumer doesn't stand behind him. Nancy Pelosi doesn't stand behind him. The DNC doesn't stand behind him. Nobody is standing behind him, but he is one example of how you ask questions.
Correct.
Right.
That's why the town hall that he's been doing with AOC, I think, have been very effective. Yeah, they're very, very effective. Yep. And for that very reason, for what you're calling out, for that very reason, just to remind people, that's why we spend a lot of time here talking about the wealth gap and talking about how trillions of dollars transferred, not lost, transferred to the people who have the most capital. When the stock market's down, people with capital acquire more capital. They make more money. Again, we talk about the where the money sits. 95% of it sits with the wealthiest, and their wealth continues to grow, and ours does not. So, you have
there's another question.
Joe Biden said it very well. Do not tell me what your values are. Show me your fucking budget. Period.
Right. And when it comes to the budget, right? Here's what I always find interesting. You were talking about the MAGA mindset and the facts, right? Okay, let's just say we're going to have a discussion about what it means to be pro-life, right? The question is very specific and very narrow. Why do you continue to vote for a party that continues to take away food assistance for children? That's it. That's the question. Ask it the same way every single time. Don't go down rabbit holes. Don't play the nuance game. When you play the nuance game with people who don't understand the word nuance, that are not well read, it comes across as arrogant and condescending. Just simply say to them, because this is what I've been doing with some of the folks that I've been training with who unfortunately are or MAGA, right? But it is what it is. I asked them,
Yeah, you can't control that.
I can't control that, right?
Nope.
How do you make 2 + 2 = 4? And can we agree that these 2 apples and these 2 apples equal 4 apples, even if they don't look the same, right? That is the fundamental problem that we're not addressing anymore, is that we get so far into the weeds, so far into the nuance. Why aren't we just asking really simple questions? Remember, it was about 8 months ago when you really started hammering away at, we suck at messaging.
Yeah.
Right? So where does messaging start? It starts from the bottom up, right? We talked about grassroots, right? I do not hear, and I have not seen anyone who's for human rights and the existence of human beings' wellness ask simple questions. They're always trying to find some nuance angle or some cute way to ask the question. Ask it. If you are pro-life, why are you for a party that constantly takes food away from children? If you are pro-life, why are you for a party that constantly votes to take away access to childcare, knowing that it takes 2 incomes to support a family today? Because, as you pointed out earlier in this morning's Spicy Steve diatribe, which I fucking loved. And by the way, when you said downward facing dog, our wife and I were walking the dog, and I did a downward facing dog on the sidewalk. Just want to let you know that I do participate.
Good for you.
I think I did embarrass Jen a little bit with that one.
What else is new?
Yeah,
Friday.
Let's get back to the basics. Let's get back to simple messaging and simple questions, right?
Yep.
We know that if you ask a pointed question to Trump, he's not going to answer it, right? So stop. He's just not going to answer it. But guys like Rand Paul,
he's not capable.
Right?
Yeah.
Guys like Rand Paul lately,
yeah, shocking.
When asked a simple, direct question, he's like, "Yeah, no, I don't like that."
Yep.
Right.
But then you get the other side. Then you get the other side of the senator from Oklahoma, Mark Wayne Mullen, when asked about the gift of the Qatari jet. He's like, "Well, I have no problem with it at all. Statue of Liberty." No, my guy. Resolute Death, Statue of Liberty gifts to the American people. Congress approved them. That's the difference. And this is the part that bothers me the most, to be honest with you. To your point, if the Qatari government's going to offer a narcissist a shiny new jet, of course the president's going to take it. Of course he is. There's no denying that.
Right.
All Congress had to do to say, "Yeah, no, Mr. President. Nope, we're not going to authorize that." And then game's over. That's it. But no, they won't do that. They will not do it. They will not stand there and say, "We support the emoluments clause in the Constitution, and even if we feel like there could be a justification here, the perspective, the way it looks ethically, we're just not going to do it." Nope, can't do that though. Can't do that. They can't do it. Instead, Mike Johnson wants to stand there and say, "You know, the Biden crime family, all of their corruption was done under darkness. Trump family corruption, right out in the open. See how transparent they are?" I mean, that's just pitiful. Never mind selling your soul. Never mind selling your soul. It's beyond that.
Well, this is another one of those things, right? See, they let him get away with answering the question that way.
Good point.
What a journalist is supposed to do is respond and say, "Okay, that was interesting, but only if I didn't want an answer to my original question." President Biden, in his tax returns, showed that he was paid $15 million in a book deal.
Correct.
Your committees showed zero evidence outside of the book deal and a loan repayment check from his brother.
Correct.
Where is the criminality?
Let's go back a little bit into time, because I talked about this yesterday, since we now have gone through the budget. So again, what we know, high level, we know that they've increased the debt limit. We know that the new budget is going to add $5.7 trillion to our debt. We know that they are increasing spending for defense. They are cutting spending for education, cutting spending for public health, cutting spending for seniors. Don't forget, they executive ordered their way by removing the cap on pharmaceuticals, which means Meemaw and Peepaw not only are going to be kicked off Medicaid in many cases, but they're also going to have to pay more for their pharmaceuticals. We know that. That's in the budget. That's not my opinion. That's not Obi's opinion. That is in the budget. Meanwhile, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, stands in front of the American people and says this.
And I'm in favor of that because I don't think we should have any appearance of impropriety here. Okay, but the other side of it, some people say, well, look, the salary of Congress has been frozen since 2009. When you adjust for inflation, a member of Congress today is making 31% less than they made in that year. It goes down every year, and over time, if you stay on this trajectory, you're going to have less qualified people who are willing to make the extreme sacrifice to run for Congress. I mean, it's just people just make a reasonable decision as a family on whether or not they can come and move to Washington, have a residence here, residence at home, and do all the things that are required. So the counter argument is, and I have some sympathy, look, at least let them engage in some stock trading so that they can continue to take care of their family. But on balance, my view is we probably should do that because I think it's been abused in the past, and I think, sadly, a few bad actors discolor it for everyone. And look, we have no tolerance for anything even resembling insider trading or any of this kind of advantage that anybody could take. Zero tolerance for it, and we'll stamp it out ourselves. So that's why I'm in favor of the policy, but I understand people that have misgivings about that, so we'll see where it lands.
So again, Louisiana, a state that is either number one or within the top 5 of a state that receives federal subsidies to support the poor people in their state, people that are on Medicaid, people that are on SNAP, people that are on welfare programs and public assistance, a state that receives a large chunk of federal dollars. In the budget that was just released and authored by people like Mike Johnson, he is the one in charge of the House. He is the one that knows the mechanisms to required. He's the one that signed on to reconciliation, finding all these cuts in the budget. He is now saying, well, American people, well, Meemaw, Peepaw, well, poor kids, sorry, we need a raise in Congress, and we're not going to necessarily do anything about insider trading. And you wonder why it is that I get frustrated with people on the right who sit there and claim to be, for smaller government. Why I get frustrated with non-voters who didn't bother to fucking show up. Yes, I'm talking to you, Gen Z and others, who didn't bother to fucking show up. And this is what we get now. This is intentional. There is no other way to navigate through it other than saying, they are intentionally and intimately aware that people are going to be harmed. And their voters, because their voters are fucking ignorant, are going to stand by and say, yeah, I think Congress should get a raise. No problem. I have no problem with that. I think Trump should get a jet. No big deal. Gotta have the best. Gotta have the best jet when we fly around places. And Meemaw and Peepaw are going to be homeless. And veterans are going to lose their benefits. And people with substance use disorder are not going to have access to care. And children are going to go hungry. I'll say that again. Children are already live in food insecurity across. Millions of people live below the poverty line. Tens of millions of children in our country. Tens of millions of kids in our country go to bed hungry every night. And conservatives and MAGA voters are cheering on the fact that Trump was gifted a $400 million luxury jetliner, and they will do Simone Biles flips like gymnastics to support this argument. And now they are cheering on the fact, or representatives of Congress are going to tell the American people that, we deserve a raise. We haven't gotten one. We've got the best health care in the world. We don't pay for it. We get a pension and benefits for life. We don't have to worry about working again. We're going to go on book tours. We're going to make money off of our names. Yeah, kids are getting hungry. Sorry. Fuck all y'all. Fucking children, friends. Children are going to bed hungry in our country as we approve a $1 trillion defense budget, as we support more violations of people's constitutional rights because they have brown skin. Judges are getting locked up for doing their job. Proud Boys, Oath Keepers added to ICE so they can show their racism right out loud, out and proud. Children are starving. Women are dying. Members of LGBTQIA are being erased. History is being whitewashed. But our president needs a new plane. Fuck all y'all. Seriously. Children are starving in our country. And to Obi's point earlier, you care about pro-life, right? Cool. Let me know and I'll read you the I fight for life, march for life shit again. Let me know. Let me know so I can shame you and I can embarrass you and I can show you what a pathetic hypocrite you are. I get emotional about this stuff because it matters. And I hope that you can hear this and be like, and get angry and get fired up and get out there in the streets and cause good trouble or not and get dirty. They're laughing in your face, friends, because they don't give a shit about you. They don't care. You, their voters, they don't care. And then you get these pseudo-intellectual fucknuts who think they know more about the economy than economists. I'm not an economist, but I read, I study, I learn. I know what's in the budget. I know what's in the budget. I'm objective. People on the left, I call people on the left all the time. No, you're wrong about that. No tax on tips is in the bill. But not like it was explained, not like it was sold to us. It expires. Members of Congress have the best health care in the world, and they don't pay for it. And that whole bullshit argument that Mike Johnson made about housing, you get per diems for housing in addition to your salary. You get benefits. You get access to property at below market value so that you can have a residence in DC. That's how it works. And you all that are conservatives and MAGA voters and Republicans who believe in this economic solution that Trump's going to solve your problems, when the fuck are you going to wake the fuck up? My gosh. Again, I'll say it again. Children are starving in our country. Families will lose loved ones because they can't afford to go to the hospital. Hundreds of thousands of Americans are dying in our country unnecessarily because they don't have insurance and they can't afford to go to the doctor. In the richest country in the world that can all of a sudden afford a $400 million jet for the president to fly around in so he can measure his dick. Whatever.
But he's increasing the military budget, Steve. He cares about our veterans and our soldiers. See, that's another one, right? Every single time that's brought up, I need a journalist to say, it's not the military budget that's increasing. It's the contracts to the military industrial complex that's increasing. The largest raise.
You know me as Lennon. You're right. You don't have to apologize. It is all come down to men. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. You know me as Lennon. You're absolutely right. It is absolutely. And even more, it comes down to white men. Period. Full stop. It comes down to white men. Mediocre white men who peaked in middle school. Mediocre white men who could not fight their way out of a wet paper bag, act all tough in these spaces, do not give a shit about anybody. They will step over their own family because they think they're going to get picked. Mediocre white men have put us in this position. Mediocre white men who don't give a flying fuck about their own families. You peaked in middle school, maybe high school. Glad you got your participation trophy. Glad you finished. I'm glad you rode the bench in JV. And they got to wear your jacket because you thought you were cool. You don't give a shit about education. You don't care about health. You don't care about your children making choices for themselves to make their lives better. Fuck you. You're the problem. It's you. It's on you. You're the problem. You're why we're here. It's not the marginalized. It's not members of the LGBTQI community. It's certainly not black women. They're out there fighting every fucking day. Every fucking day. We ask them to defend democracy, and they do it. And what do? You privileged little pissant, mediocre white men, you run and hide. And you blame somebody else. And you're too privileged. Oh, my vote doesn't count. Pitiful. Children are fucking dying in our country because they don't have health care, because they don't have food. Women are sitting in hospital rooms in Georgia because of draconian policies that don't even allow her family to make a medical decision for her to pull the plug. Unreal. Get angry.
Hey now. I like you like this.
I'm just so tired of it. I am just so tired of mediocre white men holding us back. Until their reckoning comes, it's always going to happen.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
I am still Zen. Anachronista, thank you for asking. Yes, but seriously, why is it that way? Why is it that it's always white men? Every possible privilege afforded to us, every possible, we started on third base, we started 3/4 of the way up the ladder, and it's not enough. And you're going to sit in your little circles, and you're going to jerk each other off, and you're going to massage your fucking truck nuts while people are fucking dying. Women are being told to be incubators. Women are going to be bribed into having to give birth because their husbands, because legislation is going to be passed that they can't even get health care unless they get permission from the men in their lives.
Yeah.
Every single man, there is no such thing as a safe man. I will say that 10 toes down. I'm not the arbiter of it. Obi's not the arbiter of it. We will do our best. But it is all of us until it's none of us. And it is all white people until it's no white people. Period. You don't like it? If you're uncomfortable by it? Good. Good. Be uncomfortable by it. Maybe ask yourself why you feel uncomfortable. Maybe it's because it's fucking true. Maybe it's because it's fucking true. Never mind, maybe. It is true.
It is true. Jinx, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, you owe me a Coke. Also, I'm not your ally and I'm not your accomplice because it's not my job to make those statements. And
right.
It's not for me to determine that status. That status is a gift. It's not something I get to pronounce.
It's correct.
And I also
Dak,
hate
are you there?
both of those things too. So,
same. Dak, are you there? Dak? I guess not.
You had two people come up at once? It looked
was
like.
weird. I'm not sure what happened there.
It was weird.
Neither one could connect. It's very strange. So aggravating. We knew it was going to be in the budget. We knew the harm it's going to. We knew that the budget was going to be the tip of the spears of how we can harm as many marginalized communities as we can. First of all, I want to stop referring to women as marginalized because the majority of people in our nation are women or identify as such. They're marginalized not from a population perspective, but from a bullshit ideological oppression perspective that is run by white men. White men. All but one of our presidents has been a white man.
Yeah, but that one guy wore a tan
25,
suit, Steve.
25, I think it's 25 women have served in the Senate. That may even be high. And
Yeah, that seems a little high, doesn't it?
15% of the House in our history. And yet women are to blame? I want you all to get angry. Protect your peace. I get it. I can say that. Here's my privilege showing. I can say that as a privileged white man in America. I want you all to get angry. Because this is real. The budget that we just saw that is going to have some hurdles in the Senate, thankfully, because there's a few courageous Republicans in the Senate that are going to say this has just gone too far. But don't depend on them. Every single day when we sign off on our show, we ask the question, do something. What are you doing? I know it's scary. And as Daniela talked about when she was talking to us yesterday, it's scary. Yeah, all these kinds of things that the cult is intentionally doing. It's scary. No shit. I get it. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? White men, you fragile ass cupcakes that are out there. Are you going to finally realize it too and start doing something? Walk up to your daughter, walk up to your sister, walk up to your niece and say, just so you know, I don't give a fuck about you. Because it might as well just be easier for you to do that because the way you vote and your rhetoric tells us that. So just cut to the chase. Walk up to them and say, hey, sweetie, I'm not going to be able to read a book to you anymore because I don't give a fuck about you. I don't fucking care about your body. I just expect you to birth out babies, period. And if I want to touch you inappropriately, I will because the president did. Seriously, just make it easier because we know who you are. We know you don't give a fuck. We know you don't care. We know because you're never going to amount to anything in life. So you'll punch down to as many people as possible because you don't give a fuck about anybody. Anybody. I care more about your children than you do. Black women who you want to demonize every single day care more about your children than you do. Drag queens who brighten the eyes of your kids when they go for story time care more about your kids than you do. Marginalized communities, immigrant families, they care more about your kids than you do. Everybody cares more about your kids than you do. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong by voting differently. Yeah. Prove me wrong by standing up for something.
Spicy Steve throwing down the gauntlet. And as always, please do tap the screen, gift the host, help him buy a wonderful gift besides him standing there in only a pair of chaps.
In my jorts.
And your jorts with your PBR aluminum. I mean, you know, can we just say something for a moment of levity? Yeah. Macrame in the 1970s produced some really amazing things. None of which should see the light of day, other than perhaps the macrame used to display your air fern. Do you remember the air fern craze of the 1970s?
Holy shit. Well, I haven't thought about that in forever. Wow, that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild.
Grab your pet rock, caress your air fern, and make sure you're zen.
So I don't know if you guys heard this, but Bruce Springsteen, who I love musically from a humanitarian perspective, is now, he's not shy to put himself out there in the political region. So this is what he said just yesterday, I think it was, or over the weekend, about Mr. Trump.
In my home, the America I love, the America I've written about, that has been a beacon of hope and liberty for 250 years, is currently in the hands of a corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous administration. Tonight, we ask all who believe in democracy and the best of our American spirit to rise with us, raise your voices against authoritarianism, and let freedom reign.
Okay, so Bruce Springsteen, in many ways, epitomizes America. Middle-class guy, grew up with nothing, worked hard, made an impact, the American brand of rock and roll spread across the universe, so to speak, right? He goes public and says something that powerful, okay? To which the president responded.
I see that a highly overrated Bruce Springsteen goes to a foreign country to speak badly about me, the president of the United States. Never liked him. Never liked his music or his radical left politics. And, importantly, he's not a talented guy. Just a pushy, obnoxious jerk who fervently supported crooked Joe Biden, a mentally incompetent fool, and our worst ever president, in all caps, who came close to destroying our country. If I wasn't elected, it would have been gone by now. Sleepy Joe didn't have a clue as to what he was doing, but Springsteen is dumb as a rock and couldn't see what was going on, or could he? Which is even worse. This dried-out old prune of a rocker, his skin is all atrophied, ought to keep his mouth shut until he gets back into the country. That's just standard fare. Then we'll all see how it goes for him.
Sounds like a threat.
First of all, the boss, I do not presume to call him anything but his appropriate title. He got married one time in Lake Oswego, Oregon. And I somewhere in the depths of my stuff have a copy of that marriage license because we knew people at the wedding
nice
who thought it was funny to take a copy of that. He could sell out any stadium in the United States in 30 seconds.
In the world.
Yeah, in 30 seconds. Now,
absolutely.
President Trump on his best day at a rally, best day, and I may be exaggerating, but I'm going to say the best he could probably get is 15 to 20,000 people.
If that, these days.
If that, right? What's the damn? I wish your girlfriend was here. The place in the UK where they go and it's like fucking 80,000 people.
Wembley,
right? That stadium it looks like a fucking small town,
mm-hmm.
basically. You know what? Groups like the Foo Fighters go there and sell out 4 nights in a row.
Yep.
Right? You know, the boss could do that too. And I think he is in Europe right now, as a matter of fact, right? On another tour.
He is.
Jesus Christ. First of all, can we just hats off to him? Because he's not a young man.
No. He plays 4 hours. He plays for like 4 hours. Because he feels like if there might be somebody here who's never seen me play before, I want to make sure they remember. Like seriously, like a 4-hour set. That's why he's the fucking boss.
He's in his mid 70s now, I think, right?
He is. I think he's pushing 80, to be honest.
And may I ask the ladies, did anybody other than him wear a pair of 501 Levi's jeans better in the 80s? I think not.
Probably not. 78. There you go. Probably not.
No, he's not. He's 78.
He's 78. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't ask for much, but let's just say I believe that God existed. God, could I please look half as good as the boss? At
75.
78.
Sorry, 75. My bad. 75.
Still. Holy shit. Still. Dude looks amazing.
Hey, rock and roll lifestyle, man. That's it. So we're all missing out.
Yeah. I mean, how do you play guitar, right? And I also dabble with some instruments. Even just jamming with friends for 4 hours is exhausting.
It's true. Hey, listen, I have 7 Bruce songs that I play just because it's Bruce and they're simple and they're fun and they're fucking awesome. And the point is that statement from the president seems like a threat, right? Seems like a threat.
Did you? Yep. I missed the beginning. Did you talk about James Comey today?
Somebody mentioned that. I didn't see the tweet. Is there a tweet?
So here's the basis of it. And again, because your audience is the best, they will, 1, correct me, and 2, get into Discord and put it out there. Comey was, as you know, retired FBI agent James Comey is now a author and writes books because he went to school and he knows how to write. Was at a beach and he took a picture of some seashells that were arranged apparently in some number sequence. And he then posted it on Instagram or something and then wrote something probably back at Trump. One of the toadies in MAGA then is like, oh, James Comey is calling to unalive the president. And so now they have the fucking secret. First of all, where's this even going? Right? Oh, 86 and 47.
86-47. Yeah, like 86-47. Like 86 mashed potatoes, 86 the fish, 86 the president.
Yes.
Is what they're implying here. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
even still, right? So it was in Seashell? Okay, so I'm not crazy. He then deleted the post and put another post saying he just thought it was kind of cool. And then when somebody told him, right, he deleted the post, which is what an adult would do, right? But they have been so waiting for him to do one thing, right? Because, Trump can't stand him because he's too smart, right? Trump can't stand to have intelligent people in the room that aren't willing to play dumb.
Yeah, and somebody had stood up to him in the old days, too.
Right. Yep. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. But again, look at all of the distractions lately. Like, because Kristi Noem is the one that's pushing this, right? And it's because she couldn't answer. First of all, hats off to Eric Swalwell. I miss my old congressman. Fucking awesome dude. Great person to talk to and a solid dude. I love how he was just like, I have a bullshit detector.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I've got kids. I got kids. I've got...
Right? Also, Chelsea, if you're out there listening, Tri-Valley for life.
From one Navy vet to another, I saw that you had requested Navy vet. What's up, friend? How are you?
I'm good. I dropped the image of the 8647 in your chat and Discord.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But
let me take a look.
The thing I'm thinking about is, how everybody's cheering to get rid of birthright citizenship?
Yeah.
Where else in the United States law or Constitution does it state what a citizen of the United States is except for the 14th Amendment?
Not specifically. I mean, there are rights and privileges that are addressed in other amendments, but not the specifics around that as far as I know, right?
Right. And what I'm saying is he does away with birthright citizenship. That's where it's defined. We're now all no longer citizens.
Right. And that's what
I get your point. Yeah. Yep.
Wasn't it God dang it. What's the beer drinking, crying Supreme Court justice?
Brett Kavanaugh.
Thank you. God damn it. I'm totally brain farted. In his questioning, he said, well, then what are we going to do when babies are born? And the Solicitor General wasn't able to respond. And Brett was like, well, with what mechanism then how do we identify citizenship? Right. And that's to Navy vet's point, is that, hey, if you do this and a child is born, there's no mechanism to prove that they're a citizen or not if you take this out. So they want to strip this out, but they don't want to provide the remedy. Right. Which is the same thing as, hey, let's defund the government so we can turn around and say, hey, look, the government doesn't work.
Right. That's exactly what it is. Let's screw the government up so it doesn't work, so we can say it doesn't work.
Exactly. That's an autocratic approach to it as well. We're going to break shit, tell people things don't work, that only we can fix it. That's another right out of the playbook. Navy vet, appreciate you, brother. As always, good to talk to you. See you later.
Thank you.
Thanks, shitmate.
Thank you. All right, we're going to wrap, friends. It's been quite the day. So just some programming notes. No Facts After Dark tonight, and then we'll do a live on Monday, and then I got a bunch of shit to do Tuesday because I got to drive to Boston Tuesday night because I'm leaving at the crack of dawn on Wednesday morning. I will probably, maybe I'll go live from the airport or something like that. That's next week. On Thursday, I'm going to be interviewing a senatorial candidate in the state of Maine who is running to replace Susan Collins. His name is Jordan Wood. And I've been in contact with his campaign, and he's agreed to sit down for an interview, working on that. So I'll be doing that from the UK. So we'll be able to have that conversation, but I'll send out a reminder to folks that that's going to happen. So we're going to raid Olive, by the way. Obi, any last words, my brother?
I want you to have a fantastic time across the pond. I do need a few moments of your time for capitalism.
I got you.
And
that's why I'm ending a little early, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's like I'm available for you.
We love you.
We love you too.
And we want to let you know that, as always, our family is here for you and your family, and we expect photos.
You'll have them. You'll have them.
And at least. In fairness, I thought about this. I need you to rub it in my face in the polite and cute way we rubbed it into other people's faces while we were at Disneyland together.
Oh, I will. Don't worry. We have a plan. Our girlfriend and I have had this conversation about how we might do that specifically with you in mind, sir. And I'll let you interpret that however you like. But anywho,
in my chair.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you.
I love
give me
you.
20 minutes and I'll text you. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Later. Peace. All right, friends. Everybody have yourselves a wonderful weekend. And in honor of the savagery of the boss, I will leave you with this.